don't even
Really?
know about nieces
When
and
Bill
nephews.
Motley was
And
doing
then they come up with these funny names.
I think we should have, maybe what you might want to
I
suggest.
thought when I was in the school system, I had to deal with a lot of different names. Oh, but my
started at 4 o'clock.
Capitals in the middle and everything.
Work through supper. That's not too exciting.
Well, most code enforcement
in
boards
Oakwood
meet in the
Street,
evening,
they changed that too, you know.
so that people can be available for the hearings, those people that work.
Yeah, that was Wall
And
Street.
I wouldn't have a problem with that either if they started
When I
at
grew up, it was Wall Street. They
7,
changed it to
went till
Oakwood.
10 or 11. But
Yeah.
I'll be doggone.
Like last night, I was in Safety Harbor,
Oh,
their
wow,
meeting started
yeah.
at 7.
We would learn something new.
And
I
they
live
went
on
till about
Lincoln.
9:30.
So,
You live on Lake Street East?
Lincoln.
Oh, Lincoln.
Pardon?
You do?
Yeah,
Where?
just, I was saying, maybe
South of Martin
since
Luther
the
King?
agenda seems to
No,
be
north.
Just north.
One,
On
two,
the north side.
growing, that maybe we should start at 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Is that what corner?
I don't know when
Um, Lincoln and
then I realized
MLK.
that choir practice.
And
Oh.
Lincoln
You
and
just go from that to choir practice.
Lincoln
You
and
got choir
Oakwood
practice, you
Drive?
got a meeting. All right, let's go.
Okay.
that scares you.
Roll.
No, no, I'm just trying to, no,
Feather.
I'm just trying to
Okay
tell
in the
you.
weather? You got
I
rain
still
and
feathered
stuff.
it very well.
I left
I
town, so
feathered
I
that
feathered it
storm. You
fine.
feathered it
I
fine.
went,
Like
I
all,
went to Atlanta.
like all good birds, you left town. Good,
Lot
good,
on
good.
the corner.
I went
And
through
you go
Charlie
right
in a
up
hotel in
there
Orlando,
because the house
when
was
it came
built.
through.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't
House
doing
was
that
there.
again.
Never again, huh?
Well, I tell you what, if
I had a
it's
pretty
gonna
good
be
day.
a
It was
two,
here
I'm out of
today.
here.
Lincoln?
I won't
They
do
had
it
windows
to again.
broken out in the top
Luther
floors of the
King.
hotel. I was in there.
On the south,
So we went to Atlanta on Thursday morning. We headed up. We went right up 19 to stay away from the mess on 75.
Good idea.
south,
Took it all the way to the southern part of Atlanta.
Hey, you ready?
Unfortunately, we hit it
right
at rush
across
hour.
the street is that little
Upstairs,
apartment.
video
like-
tape.
Well, yeah, and then you see the traffic.
Well, when we were headed,
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order, please.
In a great tree fell on. Oh, you should see the damage.
Let the record indicate that the time is 2 p.m. Today's date is Thursday, September 21, 2017. My name is Carl Dematzis. I'm the chairman of the Code Enforcement Board, and I call this meeting to order. Would you all please turn off your cell phones, if you have a cell phone, and would we rise for the invocation? Mr. Trask, would you lead us in the invocation, please?
Our Heavenly Father, send down your blessings on this meeting of the Code Enforcement Board. Give the board members a clear sense of duty and lead them to a faithful discharge of the same. Direct them in their deliberations at this meeting so that all things may be done to the glory of thy name and the welfare of the people of the city of Tarpon Springs. This we pray. Amen.
Amen. Now for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to have a roll call. I would ask the clerk.
Mr. Demasis,
Here.
Mrs. Archer,
Here.
Ms. Casey,
Here.
Mr. Bergman,
Here.
Mrs. Dabbs,
Here.
Miss Wade,
Here.
Mr. Weeks.
Here.
That completes your roll call.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to go over the hearing procedures for the Code Enforcement Board. It is the intention of this board to promote, protect, and improve the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Tarpon Springs by providing an equitable, effective, and inexpensive method of enforcing various codes within the city of Tarpon Springs. Any aggrieved party may appeal a final administrative order of this board to the circuit court. Such appeal shall be filed within 30 days of the execution of the order to be appealed. Florida Statute 286.0105 requires any party appealing a decision of this board to have a record of the proceedings to support such an appeal. The procedure of this board is as follows. First, the city presents its witnesses and exhibits, after which the alleged violator is able to ask the city's witnesses any specific questions regarding their testimony. Secondly, the alleged violator is allowed to make a presentation and present his or her witnesses and exhibits. Then the city can question the alleged violator's witnesses. After both rounds of testimony, both on the part of the city and on the part of the alleged violator, each party is asked to give a closing argument, first by the city and then by the alleged violator. After those three steps are taken, this board We'll close the public hearing portion of the case to discuss it and take appropriate action. Before we begin the public hearings, we will have all potential witnesses stand and be sworn in by the Secretary of the Board. Please stand if you feel that you're going to be giving testimony today. Anyone giving testimony, please stand, raise your right hand.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Okay, thank you. And again, please turn all cell phones off. The first item on the agenda today, we have a case that's been moved up. It's case number 17-8000451. It's listed on the agenda as case number 9. We're going to take this as the first case. It's 629 Tessier and Catherine Mahanis, Revocable Living Trust. Anybody here for this case? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, real quick, just before we start, I wanted to introduce to the board our new clerk, Beth Hughes. She's our new runner, so we can talk more about her, but she's taking Barb's place, so I just wanted to introduce her before we get going.
Good luck.
Welcome.
Glad to have you.
Ready?
Any exhibits that you're going to be presenting, we'll have
Yeah, they're being presented right now.
the claimant take a look at them.
He's taking a look. He already looked at it, yes, sir.
Have you been presented copies? Any problem with those going into evidence?
No.
No? Okay, thank you. All right then, Officer Gasson, if you're ready, you may proceed.
Thank you. Officer Steve Gasson, City of Tarpon Springs Police Department Code Enforcement, been so employed since 2015 as a code enforcement officer for the city. Case in question before the board is 17-800000451. The property address is a residence at 629 Tessier Drive. It's owned by Catherine Mahinas, the Living Trust. Tommy Mahinas is the son of Catherine, correct?
Yep.
Originally, the first exhibit going around for the board is going to be all the photographs, including my initial inspection, the re-inspection, and my sign posting. Exhibit number 2 that's going before the board are all of my notices, including the notice of violation and the notice of hearing. Exhibit number 3 are any administrative docs, including the case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector records, and emails between myself and the arborist. And then exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. Initially, my inspection started on July 25th of this year. I had gotten a complaint about an adjoining property, so in the process, I noticed this property. Initially, I thought the house appeared to be vacant. It wasn't. I knocked on the door, nobody was there. The lot was overgrown, there was trash and debris on the property, and trash cans at the curbside, and there was a dead tree next to the driveway. I received and had some email conversation with the arborist regarding the dead tree, and she confirmed that the tree needed to be removed, that the state it was in. On August 26th of this year, I went out and conducted a re-inspection. The trash cans had been moved, so that aspect of the violation is no longer before the board. And otherwise, at that time, there still was no change. The tree was still there, and so on and so forth. On August 30th, we sent a notice of hearing, mailed first class and certified mail. On September 8th of this year, the sign was posted, and my affidavit of posting was signed. On September 19th, I had, actually, Major Trill had contact with Tommy through the police department, and I communicated to him what was going on. Obviously, we had the storm in between there, so there was some damage to that tree. Some of the branches had fallen, broken off, but the tree's dead, and it was on the neighboring property. I had left Mr. Mahinas a courtesy notice advising him, clean that up because the city was going to have all the free pickup. So if he just got it curbside, and right now they've suspended any requirements for permits to remove any trees for 30 days after the storm. So he had the opportunity to go ahead and get that cut down. Unfortunately, I didn't have any prior conversation with Mr. Mahinas until pretty much yesterday, today. He advised me he was in the process trying to take care of the tree. So, but unfortunately, the wheels were kind of already turning to go before the code board. At this point, our notices were all received and sent to the property owner via the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector's website and database. And At this point, I have nothing further. And I would just like, actually, I do. I'd just like the board to consider violation of City Code 8-40, 8-52, and 13302. 13302 is specifically for the dead tree and the requirement to have it removed. And 840 and 852 have to deal with the cleanup of the branches and such.
All right. Mr. Mahinas, do you have any questions for the inspector?
No, I told him the tree's coming down. I got Mugro. They're cutting it down this week.
Okay, but right now, I'm just asking if you have any questions.
No.
No. Okay. Do any of the board members have any questions for Mr. Gasson, Inspector Gasson? All right, Mr. Mahinas, you want to give us your side?
My yard, the person who takes care of my yard, his equipment was down, so it was raining, it grew, it got cut, then it was just recently cut again. Everything's cleaned up, except for the tree, which is coming down this week, when they have time. The two branches that are left. And as for some of the branches in the field next to me, I've been dealing with pneumonia for 3.5 weeks. I've tried to get out there to do stuff. I can't do it. I can't move them. They're about 10, 15 feet from the road, roughly.
Yes, that'd be correct.
Officer, any questions?
No, I have none.
Okay. Do any of the board members have any questions? I have a question for you, Officer Gasson. We discussed the tree, but as to the other items, the trash on private property?
He cleaned up everything. I mean, unfortunately, that still kind of falls a little bit under 840 and 852 because of the debris from the tree. So I couldn't put him in compliance. He mowed the yard. All of that was taken care of. But because the branches were still laying there, 852 still applies. That also was in conjunction with his yard, but like I said, he's taking care of his yard.
And I have the branches from the neighbor's empty lot too, that I had to cut down before the storm.
That tree lost a lot of branches.
That were hanging on the wire before the storm came.
Well, you do have an opportunity now with the cleanup coming, that if you can get it to the curb.
Definitely.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
From my understanding, like he said, Mugro's coming out, Tuesday, I think?
Yeah,
and
he's coming
they'll
out to take care of all that.
So it's 8-40, 8-52, and 133.02.
That's correct, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for either side? Any of the board members? Can I get a motion on this? Anybody care to make a motion?
I don't know what we're making the motion for. Because it's applied.
Well,
I'll
if
do
he's
that.
fully complied, then I'm not exactly sure why you've indicated that you still
Well, he's
wanna
not. The
pursue
tree
this.
still is there. And so he's still in violation as of yesterday of the tree. And then consequently, all the debris that goes from the tree, which is 852 and 840. So he's still in violation of that.
Well, the entire city's in violation as far as trees piled.
Well, I understand that, but this whole case started well before the storm. The tree was still dead before the storm, and it's still dead now, and it still needs to be removed. And
Okay.
he's got a great opportunity to get rid of it.
All right,
With-
will somebody please make a motion so we can move
I will.
this case?
I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in law that at the time of the alleged violations, sections 8-40, 8-52, and 133.02 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect. The respondent was in violation thereof.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Yes, sir. Can I have exhibit number 2?
Okay?
It's
exhibit
right
number
here.
2,
It's
if we're finished with it?
Oh,
Okay, and we'll have, all the exhibits will become a part of the record.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Mrs. Wade? Yes. Mrs. Dabbs?
yes.
Mr. Bergerman?
Yes.
Ms. Vacacy?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. DeMossis?
Yes. Okay, now as far as the penalty phase,
I move that the respondent shall have until October 20th, 2017 to bring the property into compliance with code section. Oh, I thought you stopped. Code sections 8-40, 8-52, and 133.02, or suffer a fine of $25 per day for each day thereafter the respondent remains in violation of said code section.
Second.
okay, any discussion?
Ms. B. Casey, what was your date?
October 20th.
Thank you.
Before we vote, can I ask you, Mr. Mahinus, can you take advantage of the fact that there's gonna be a cleanup and get everything out there?
Definitely, yeah.
So you'll be in compliance for the October 22nd?
Oh, way before that.
Way before that. Okay, then.
That'll be done this week.
All right. Do we need to discuss this, or are we ready for a vote on Wanda's motion? We'll take a vote then.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Stabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergman?
Yes.
Ms. B. Casey?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer? Mr. Demossis?
Yeah. All right, then, we're gonna expect that you're gonna have that cleaned up, and you won't have to worry about the fine, so.
Okay.
Not until October 22nd. Thank you. I'm sorry, the 20th. October 20th. But you're gonna get it done right away, right? Don't miss the free pickup.
Make sure,
Okay.
make sure and contact the code enforcement office.
A good point,
Okay.
when you are in compliance. That's it? Thank you.
Thanks, Tommy.
Okay, we'll go back to the regular agenda. Takes us to case number 2, not to be considered change in ownership, so that one's taken care of.
But we didn't
Takes
do
us
number
to
one.
case number 1. 17-800000305, that's 553 Division Street. Anybody here for 553
Yes.
Division Street? Okay. Would you identify yourself, sir?
Yeah, I'm Matthew Wadick, Joyce's son.
Okay,
I'm Joyce Wittig.
very good, all right. And do we have some exhibits that they've been shown?
Yes.
Okay.
We did clear out the trail.
First thing I want to ask you though, sir, any problem with those exhibits going into the record?
Photo 7 is not my property.
We can't identify photo 7 where that view is, but the rest of it's all been cleaned.
Okay, you have a copy of
I'm
item
looking through
7,
now.
Officer Gasson, maybe we can get some light on what that is.
Barb, you show me which one there 7 is, see if it's the same one.
It's the one with the, nope.
No?
Yeah, we got a different one. I guess it's got big rubber leaf.
Maybe the wrong picture got put in.
Because that's a single house, that's not even ours.
That's
Nope.
the neighbors.
That's neighbor's property. That's
That's
sidewalk. Yeah,
Because you have the lot next door too.
correct.
So these two, I don't need to consider those two photographs.
What number are they?
Probably 7.
Okay, have we resolved the issue with item 7? Pardon me?
There'll be 2 photographs that are taken out of
Okay, so we're gonna remove those?
Yes.
With those being removed, any other exceptions or
Not
No.
that we
no other
noted.
problem? Okay. Officer Gasson, if you're ready to proceed.
Ma'am, thank you. Officer Steve Gasson, City of Tarpon Springs Code Enforcement, been so employed since 2015. Case before the board 17-800000305. The address is 553 Division Street. Property owner listed as Joyce Wettig. Originally, the complaint started in May of this year, on May 30th. Exhibit number 1 that's going before the board are all of my photographs, my initial inspection and my re-inspections. Initially, my complaint was regarding the house being in poor condition, the yard not being maintained, unlicensed vehicles and so forth, and trees along the outside edge. This property is kind of like a double parcel. The house is on one parcel, and then north of it is more or less a vacant lot, so it's very large, but it is parceled together. Some of the photographs that you see, especially of the palm trees along the sidewalk, are for that second parcel that's more north of the house itself. My second exhibit are all of my notices, including my notice of violation, my final notice of violation, the notice of hearing, and an updated notice of hearing because we had a date change. Exhibit number 3 going before the board are all of my administrative documents, including the case summary, the property appraiser and tax collector records, and any emails. And the last exhibit is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign that was submitted. As I stated earlier, I started the case on May 30th of this year, reference a citizen complaint. There are numerous violations on the property. It's a very large lot. There are piles of tree and yard debris in the lot. There was a Corvette with no tags and flat tires parked on the south side of the house. And there was another vehicle, I think it was a white Chrysler, parked around back behind the house on the, would be the west side. And there was debris on the property. There was you saw it in one of the pictures, a utility trailer full of trash parked on the property. There was some siding and things like that missing from the house. And it seemed to be generally in disrepair. And there were trash cans in public view and trash and debris stored out on the front porch. We initially sent our notice of violation on May 31st, and we received another complaint from a neighbor on June 13th of 2017. On June 28th, we received the certified notice of violation returned to our office unopened. And then, due to timing with code board stuff, we decided to send a final notice of violation, which was done on July 27th of this year, and it was mailed first class, return receipt requested. I conducted the first reinspection on August 1st of this year, and there pretty much was no change at all at that time, so we then scheduled it for code board and sent a notice of hearing, which was mailed August 1st, first class and certified mail. Conducted another reinspection on the 5th. I know there had been some conversation between Ms. Wedig, I believe, and Barb in the office regarding the property needing an extension, so there was some time added to, otherwise, like I said, this was a May case, so we're now addressing it now. On August of this year, we did receive the final notice of violation, certified green card, and it was signed by the owner of the property. And then on August 29th, both the initial notice of hearing and updated notice of hearing were returned to the office unclaimed. On September 8th, it posted the property and an affidavit of posting was signed and entered. On September 14th, and if I may have said it wrong, September 8th was when the sign was posted. September 14th, we received an office visit from the owner, Ms. Wedig. I wasn't in the office at the time, so it was the clerks that handled it. I conducted my final inspection yesterday, and I noted that they're mostly in compliance. The vehicles are all gone. The trailer was still there.
It is removed now.
As of yesterday, the trailer was still there. Obviously, with the storm, they actually look like they got a lot of the debris cleaned up. There was some fence sections on the north side that aren't intact, and in all honesty, I can't tell you if they're related to the storm or not, and it's at this point, it's kind of a moot point.
Sir, let the officer testify uninterrupted, and then we'll give you a chance to speak.
So, like I said, the fence still has some issues. I can't determine whether or not if they were exacerbated by the storm or not. There's still some siding missing from the house, so it still needs to get some work done on it. So before the board today, would like them to consider a violation of the fence 36.03, the 840 and 852. As I stated, they complied with 40.00, the inoperable vehicle, so they're no longer before the board. The gentleman is stating that the trailer's been moved. I just haven't been able to confirm that. As of yesterday, it was still in violation of 43.00, but if it's been moved, that's easy enough to take care of. And the final note is that all of our notices were sent to the property owner of record by the Pinellas County Tax Collector and Database. And Mr. Chairman, if you would, please make sure all my exhibits are entered into evidence for the record.
Okay, let the record indicate that all of the exhibits should be gathered up by the clerk and made a part of the record. In regard to 816 and 822?
We're in compliance on those.
They're in compliance, okay. So just for the benefit of the board, can you just go over the active
Sure. 8-40,
8-40?
8-52, 36.03, and in the 43.00, the utility trailer.
All right. Which we've heard from the claimant that that's been taken care of. Okay. Do you have any questions for the officer?
Yeah, what siding are you stating that's still missing? Because in the last picture where you took the orange, on the far right corner, you can see where I replaced the siding already.
Okay. Well, when I had checked it the other day, it appeared that it was still,
No, that's been done for 2 months.
okay. Well,
Before-
then we can take
Yeah.
care of that on
Okay.
final inspection.
And I guess, what other duty of maintenance of property and nuisance are you talking about? Or
That's
are they just,
generally, I still couldn't tell if the trees had all been cleared 10 feet above the sidewalk along your perimeter, as the ordinance does require that all your trees provide 14 feet of clearance above the roadway and 10 feet of clearance above the sidewalk.
okay,
That falls under 840 and 852. And then it's just, 840 is almost like, it's a general nuisance aspect where if your house isn't taken care of and things like that, it's a nuisance aspect. So that's what 840 primarily covers. 852 covers the tree trimming, and it covers lot clearing and debris and things like that.
okay. Yeah, I mean, I had a 10-foot ladder and went and cut all the way
Okay.
down Division in Athens.
Okay.
So,
Any further questions, sir, for the
any
officer?
questions?
So, the tree trimming
He's just gonna have to check it and verify and let us know, I guess.
and the duty maintenance.
Okay, do any of the board members have any questions for Officer Gass?
Do you think how the 8-40, the house being in dilapidated condition, how long is that gonna take?
From his statement, it sounds like it may be taken care of already. So it may be kind of a moot point.
Okay.
Okay. Sir, if you'd like to present your side, anything you'd like the board to hear?
Basically, whatever we're not in compliance, just give us more time, we'll get it taken care of.
And how much more time do you think you might need?
It depends on what is left. Yeah, I mean, it depends on what's left. I mean, I went down, cut the trees all the way up with a 10-foot A-frame ladder as high as I could reach. So if it's gotta be 14 feet, I mean, that's done. I did the siding on the, what side is that? Facing the right side of the house. That's been done.
And you've indicated that the, that trailer full of
Trailers
trash,
are,
that's
yeah,
gone?
both trailers and the vehicles are all gone now.
Okay. All right.
I mean, if we have to do more, if looking at Home Depot and Lowe's, they just don't have supplies right now. And the siding, he could have just put up plywood, but what we have put up, we had to go to Tampa to get. So it's hard to match it anymore.
Okay. Officer, any questions?
No, I have none, thank you.
Okay, anybody on the board have any questions for claimants in this case? All right, can we get a motion then?
Yes. I move based on the testimony, the evidence, and the facts presented in the law that at the time of the alleged violation, sections 840, 8-52, 36.03, 40.00,
40.00, that indicates on my records that it was complied with. I think you need to go to the next one,
okay,
43.
43.00.
Okay,
Sorry. The city of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect. The respondent was in violation thereof.
okay. Any discussion? I have a quick question for you.
Sure.
Based on what's left under consideration, do you have an idea how much time you're going to need?
The only thing that would be the fence. We had about 8 more panels and 6 posts that snapped. It's getting, yeah, during the hurricane. So it's a matter of getting the supplies. Once I get supplies, maybe 2 weeks. I mean, I work full time, so I'm doing everything after 5, 6 o'clock and on weekends.
Okay. Any discussion that we need to have? Then can we get a vote?
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaquesi?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Demossis?
Yes. Okay, now let's go to the penalty phase. We've heard what the violator has indicated is the time frame they need, and
The city may have something they want to add.
pardon me?
The city may have something they want to add with regard to the penalty phase and the recommended fine.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you. I think based on what he's saying, 45 days, especially in the presence of the storm and, you know, trying to get some of the stuff that, his fence did have additional sections from my initial, so he is suffering a little bit of hurricane damage, and that puts us in kind of a unique spot. So I think 45 days is probably reasonable. And as far as the city's fine goes, $50 a day after that.
All right, that's suggested by the city. We don't necessarily have to take that suggestion, but we certainly should consider it. Anybody like to make a motion?
I will.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know. I know. I'm trying to get that date. The 20. Would the 20th of October be? That's 30 days.
November 1st?
Oh, we need 45 days.
45
Yeah,
days is
45
November
is what
5th.
I recommend.
Thank you.
On the 2nd of November.
Okay. I move that the respondent shall have until November 5th to bring the property into compliance with code sections 8-40, 8-52, 36.03, and 43.00, or suffer a fine of $50 per day for each day thereafter the respondent remains in the violation of said code section.
Any second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion in regard to this? Apparently no need for discussion. All right. I'd ask the clerk, can we get a vote?
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaquesi?
No.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Demossis?
Yes. All right, that passes. All right, so you know what you have to do now. All
Okay.
right, hopefully you'll get it done
Yep.
before the time limit goes out. And we appreciate your efforts.
Thank you.
You did clean up a couple of those items that you were originally charged with, so we'll anticipate that you'll get everything done. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, that brings us to case number 3 on the agenda, which is 974 Sunrise Drive. Anybody here for 974 Sunrise Drive? And you are, sir? Joe what? Wigan? And what are you an attorney, or are you you're the tenant, and you're representing Mr. Kinney? Problem with that?
He's going to testify under oath. I think that's going to be fine. Yeah.
All right, then. And we have some exhibits, if you'd show those to the gentleman.
Yeah, I've looked at them already.
Have you looked at them already? Any problem with us putting those into the record?
Not a problem.
Okay. Officer Gasson, if you're ready, you may proceed.
Thank you, Officer Steve Gasson, City of Tarpon Springs Code Enforcement. Case number 17-800000323. The property address is 974 Sunrise Drive. Listed property owner is Gary Kinney. Before the board are a violation. It deals with fencing 3603 and permits required for fencing 105.1. Exhibit number 1 are the photographs. Unfortunately, I don't have any initial photographs. I don't know what happened to them. So you get an after effect. Basically, the initial complaint was the fence was installed backwards. It was a neighbor complaint. And I believe I made contact with the gentleman and spoke to him when I did my initial inspection around June 1st. Going before the board is exhibit number 1 is all of my photographs to include the re-inspections and the sign posting. Exhibit number 2, all of my notices, including the notice of violation and the notice of hearing. Exhibit number 3 are administrative documents to include the case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector records. And exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. And Mr. Chairman, if you would, please enter those into evidence for the record when they've been around.
Okay, and all of the exhibits will be gathered up by the clerk and made a part of the record.
So as I stated earlier, on June 1st, I conducted my initial inspection based on a neighbor complaint. The 6-foot wooden fence between 974 and 976 Sunrise Drive was installed backwards. Basically, the city code says, I don't know of a better way of saying it, but the ugly side of a fence is supposed to face your property and not the neighbor's property. So that's the only way I could really phrase it. Like I said, I spoke to the tenants. They advised me they'd be able to take care of it within about 30 days. There's kind of an ongoing neighbor issue between the two properties. I ended up citing both of them for different issues. On July 6th, I conducted a re-inspection. I also noted that there had been no permit pulled for the fence at this point in time, and the fence was still standing. At that point in time, a notice of violation was mailed to remove the fence and obtain permits and properly install the fence. On July 7th, the notice of violation was sent first class and certified mail, and another one was also sent on the same date to the tenant as well as the property owner. On July 17th, received a letter from Joe Wagan, sorry, requesting an extension and provided his info for the owner. On August 11th, the certified notice of violation for the owner was returned unopened. I conducted a reinspection on August 25th. At that time, the fence post remained, but the fence panels were down, so most of the posts were still there. And the panels were stacked up against the house at the time. So on August 25th, so it's still technically in violation because you either got to remove all the posts or get a permit to put the fence back up. On August 25th of this year, certified notice of hearing was sent first class and certified mailed to both the owner and the tenant and occupant. On September 6th, the certified notice of hearing, green card, and receipt were received in the office, signed by the owner of the property. On September 8th, the sign was posted and the affidavit of posting was signed and sent in. I conducted my final inspection yesterday. It's almost 80% up. The best of my knowledge, though, there hasn't been a permit through the city obtained. So apparently he's got a permit. So that's a moot point at this. I haven't seen the permit. When I checked last, there hadn't been one issued in the system. So so basically, like I said, there's still, as of yesterday, it looked like 1 or 2 sections of fence that weren't up yet. And as I've stated, I've had contact with the owner. I've had contact with the tenant more so. And then all of our notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collectors database. So based on his permit, if it's a valid permit, then the only offense that we have is just the finalization of the fence, which is City Ordinance 36.03, and we would be taking 105.1 off of the table.
Okay, so we're only going to consider 36.03?
That's correct, sir.
All right. Anything else?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Wigan, any questions for the officer?
No, the only thing I had, I did have this posted on my window of the house. I did, I guess you just missed it there. I didn't.
Yeah, I just didn't see it.
See any other place to really put it. But I just left 2 of the panels on the ground just so you'd know that the posts were out. There was no posts there. I did have about 80% of the fence complete, reversed, which really was a problem with the neighbor. It wasn't anything with the city so much as the person that lived there when I put the fence up said, that's fine, you're paying for the fence, I don't care which side. Of course, then somebody else moves in and he had a problem with something else because I had to call law enforcement about some noise late at night, early morning.
Yeah, but right now I was asking you if you had any questions for Officer.
No, not at all, but we got it resolved, we'll get it taken care of.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Officer Gass?
Do you have to have another permit, take it down and put it back correctly?
Taking down, no. You can take down, but you can repair small sections without a permit, but if you like do wholesale changes, you have to have a permit. And he's got a valid permit, so he's taking care of that aspect of it. It was issued on September 6th for the record.
That was the date the permit was
September 6th of this year was when his fence permit was issued.
Mr. Wigan, I stopped you when you were in the interrogatory phase, but now, anything you want to add to the record?
No, just I have to, I guess, should I post this again to finish the
Yeah,
next
just keep
two
it up until you're
sections?
done at the house.
Okay, and we'll have it done in the next couple of days.
Think you'll have it done in the next couple
Yeah.
days? Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Wigan? Right. We're only considering 36.03. Anybody care to make a motion? Nobody wants to make a motion?
I will. I move based on the testimony, evidence, and the facts presented in the law that at the time of the alleged violation, section 36.03 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect. The respondent was in violation thereof.
Any second? All right, we've got a first and a second. Any need for discussion in this case? And I'll ask the clerk for a roll call, please.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Miss Wade?
Yes.
Miss Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergman?
Yes.
Miss Vacacy?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. DeMoss?
Yes. Okay. With that out of the way, we'll go to the penalty phase, and I'll ask Officer Gasson, any recommendation on the part of the city?
And I'll defer to the board.
Pardon me?
I'll defer to the board.
We'll defer to the board, okay. Does anybody care to make a motion regards to potential penalty for the violation?
I'll make it.
Go ahead, please.
I move that the respondent shall have until October 5th to bring the property into compliance with code sections 36.03 or suffer a fine of $25 per day for each day thereafter the respondent remains in the violation of said code section.
Any second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Apparently we'll be able to go right to a vote. Can we have a vote, please?
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Miss Wade?
Yes.
Miss Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergman?
Yes.
Miss Vacacy?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. DeMoss?
Yes. Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Wigan, we're gonna count on you to get those sections up. Okay, thank you very much.
Make sure and contact the code enforcement office when you get
Mr.
done.
Wigan? I think he's hard.
Oh, I'm sure he will.
We
go
should
look.
tell
I go
them
look
that
anyway.
because they don't think to do it,
on your
and if
date,
you're
I look.
telling them, that might register.
I'll tell you what, Wanda, I'm gonna try to remember to do that. This is the second or third time you've had to remind me, so you're gonna have to keep reminding me, but that's a good point.
And just for I automatically schedule an inspection on the date you guys give, they get an inspection scheduled automatically in the system, so.
Well, I was just thinking, if he gets it done in 2 days, if he calls you, then if you're in the neighborhood, you can just run by instead of making a special trip.
Excellent
I might
point, Wanda.
gas.
Excellent
I
point.
hate to waste gas.
Okay, let's go on to the next case. It's VL Castle Terrace. Anybody here for case number 17-800000380? VL Castle Terrace. Somebody's gonna have to tell me what VL, vacant lot?
Vacant lot.
Vacant lot, all right. I've been on the board for 4 years, and I still have to
I
remind
didn't
me.
know that.
I still have to remind me about vacant lot. All right.
It's only the one lot, right? Because the other one was cleared, I think.
Oh, she wasn't sworn in?
We don't know.
I don't know. You know what? It could be. It couldn't be.
Mind
I have no idea, 'cause I
identifying
haven't been
yourself
there.
for the record, ma'am?
Chairman.
Pardon me?
Carl.
My name is Angie Panessis.
Don't believe she was sworn in, did you?
Pardon me?
She wasn't
I don't
sworn in.
believe your respondent has been sworn in.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ma'am, were you sworn in?
Yes.
Oh, I apologize.
Okay, all right. You were here
I'll
for the
do it
swearing
again
in. We
if you want.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Want me to swear it again? I'll do it again.
No, and I don't want you to swear at us either.
No, I would never do that.
Thank you very much.
As long as you don't do it to me.
Okay, we won't.
Okay.
All right. Peace in the
My
valley.
home address or the address of this? Okay, thanks.
Did you have a chance to look at the exhibits that the city's gonna present?
I did, I've looked at them, and because I haven't been out there in a while, I can't tell you, I mean, I can neither confirm nor deny that it's the property. That sounds too politically correct. I just haven't been out there, so I don't know. It probably is. I know we're next to a house. We have 2 lots. This is the one that's
You have
still.
there's nothing clear there that you'd have to say I take a exception to.
Pardon me?
Is there anything there that you would definitely be able to say I take exception to that? I don't want that in the record.
No?
Okay, all right, then we're gonna we'll make them a part of the record.
All right.
Okay, Officer Gasson, if you're ready.
I'm ready, thank you. Officer Steve Gasson, City of Tarpon Springs Code Enforcement. The case before the board is 17-8000380. This is a vacant lot. It's slightly north of Castle Terrace and Eunice. Eunice is a platted right-of-way that is not paved all the way through. It comes off Sunset Drive. The last house on Eunice is 655 Eunice Drive. They have 2 parcels. And just a note for the board, unfortunately, due to timing, their other parcel is going before Code Board next month. I didn't want to do it that way, but sorry. That's their northern parcel that's directly next to the house. The parcel that we're talking about is the southern one that's right off of Castle Terrace.
Okay, there's 2 parcels. The
Right.
one is in compliance, correct?
Well, we'll talk about this one.
Okay, okay.
So this is the southern parcel that we have before the board, the one closest to Castle Terrace.
Okay.
You know which one I'm talking about?
No, my husband takes care of that, and he's
Okay.
not here. So the text that you have here, the violation text, that refers to both of them or just this one?
Just the southern one,
Just this one?
not the
okay.
northern one.
Okay.
So, so going before the board are my photographs to include all the inspections and the sign posting, which is exhibit number 1. Exhibit number 2 are all of my notices, including the notice of violation, the final notice of violation, and the notice of hearing. The administrative documents to include the case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector records, and officer emails are exhibit number 4. Exhibit number 3. Exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a signed copy. The case originally started June 24th of this year. The lot's vacant. It's greater than 10,000 square feet, and it's in need of maintenance, needs to be trimmed back as required. And it has, let's see. Because it's over 10,000 square feet, it was the 30-15 rule. It needed to be cut back 30 feet from Castle Terrace, 30 feet from the platted right-of-way, which is Eunice. And then because the north side is an undeveloped lot, they didn't need to maintain that side. And the western side is an adjoined to a developed property, so it needed to be cut back 15 feet. They did do some significant maintenance on it, and they cut back almost everything, almost clearing the lot, except for the 30 feet from the right-of-way on Eunice Drive. So now the whole lot's been completely mowed. That's when I did the inspection back in August. It's actually grown back significantly when I did the inspection yesterday. So moving through, on June 24th was my initial inspection. June 27th, I mailed the notice of violation, first class, and return receipt requested to the property owner, listed as Theodosis and Angie Vanessas? Vanessas, sorry about that. July 25th, I conducted the first reinspection. There was no change, and at that time, we were planning on putting on the September code board. On July 27th, also, we mailed a final notice of violation via first class and certified mail. August 26th, I conducted a reinspection. This is when I noted the lot was about 80% cleared, except for that 30 feet from the right-of-way. And since they had cleared the whole lot, that means the whole lot now needs to be cleared. So the 30-15 rule is now off the table because they did clear the majority of the lot. August 30th, we mailed the notice of hearing, first class and certified mail. I posted the sign on September 8th. And then on September 20th, I conducted another final inspection. There was, like I said, from the August 26th visit, the lot had grown back, but you could still see where it was cleared. So now, unfortunately, they're required to mow the whole lot and clear the whole lot. And then, as I already stated, their adjoining property is unfortunately going to be heard next month. We did finally have some contact with the owner on, I guess she came into the office. I didn't meet with her around July 12th. It also should be noted that all of our notices were mailed to the property owner listed according to the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector's Office. And Mr. Chairman, if you would, please enter all those exhibits into evidence for the record.
Okay, all of the exhibits should be gathered up by the clerk and made a part of the record.
So before the board, I'd like the board to consider a violation of City Ordinance 8-40, the duty to maintain private property, and City Ordinance 8-52, which is the nuisance prohibitions that require the lots to be cleared of all weeds, growth, and undergrowth and be maintained moving forward.
Ma'am, do you have any questions for the officer?
Just to be clear, because this is kind of, I don't know, not really clear to me. So to be clear, now the whole lot needs to be cleared.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, because that ordinance requires, if you would have just taken care of the 1530, you would have been okay. But now that whoever took care of your lot primarily cleared it, now the whole thing needs to be cleared according to the ordinance.
Okay, but if it was cleared, if it was 80% cleared, why does the whole thing need to be cleared? I'm not understanding that. You're saying there's more growth there, or what? I mean,
Overgrow, if you've looked at it, it's about 2 feet tall right now.
are you talking about just the part that you can mow, or are you talking about trees or
But-
bushes?
Yeah, and those trees need to be cut back because they're an invasive species, and that's a whole separate issue that we don't even have before the board right now.
Right,
So
that's those
there-
pepper trees or whatnot.
Yes.
Okay.
So now the requirement is to clear the lot, which includes invasive species. So
Okay.
you would be clearing the whole lot.
Have to clear the whole lot now. Okay. All right. That's all I wanted to ask you.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Officer Gasson? Ma'am, if you'd like to give your side of this situation?
My husband usually takes care of these things, and I thought he had pretty much done most of the work, and I guess evidently, according to Officer Gatson, he did, but now it needs to be redone. My husband had to go out of town. He left right before mid-August. He was supposed to be back Friday, this past Friday, but American Airlines canceled, I guess because of the God forbid, no earthquake, a hurricane. So he's flying in tonight. Meanwhile, I did get this. I did try to get a couple of people to go out there and look at it. They said they couldn't do it at that time. I tried to get my lawn guys to go out there. They said they didn't have the equipment. That what was needed, they needed a bush hog or something like that. I know my husband was in the process before he left to rent a bush hog, and he called Pinellas Rentals, and they didn't have one available. So he left. I got this. Now I've called, my brother was trying to get someone who knew how to run a bush hog, maybe about 3 weeks ago, and she had a job, and she was going to try and do it right after that. Long story short, the hurricane came, yada, yada, yada. Now I can't get anybody to do anything because they're all booked for 3 weeks out. So I'm going to leave this to my husband when he gets back tonight. This is his job, not mine. I don't know about bush hogs. I don't want to know about bush hogs. So, and we've had this property for many, many years, and, you know, we've maintained it the best we can, and I'm sure he'll get it in compliance. But I just, if you can, you know, give us more time now.
How much time do you think you might need?
I wouldn't know what to tell you. I know people who have left the area and are down south cleaning, and they couldn't even tell me when they're coming back.
Okay.
And I have no clue if the equipment will be there to rent, if that's been taken. So I don't want to tell you, you know, give me a month, give me 2 weeks, give me, you know, a couple. I don't know. You know.
Officer, any questions?
I have none.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do any of the board members have any questions for
Do you live?
either for Officer Gasson or for the alleged violator?
Do you live in Tarpon Springs?
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay. Do we any discussion?
Do you have any idea?
I would say 30.
Well, let's have, anybody care to make a motion, I should say. Yes, go ahead, Ms. Wade.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented and law that at the time of the alleged violation, sections 8-40 and 8-52 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect. the respondent was in violation thereof.
Any second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any need for discussion, or can we go to a vote? We'll go to a vote.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaquesi?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Demosas?
Yes. Okay, that brings us to the penalty phase. And we've heard the violator's testimony as to her efforts, and her certainly seems to be willing to make an effort to get it cleaned up. Just bear that in mind. Anybody care to make a motion?
You want to hear from the city?
Oh, I'm sorry. Officer? Thank you, Mr. Travis.
As I stated previously with Division Street, I think 45 days, which would be November 5th, and $50 a day is reasonable.
There you go.
Okay. All right. Any discussion? Then can we have a motion, please?
I move that the respondent shall have until November 9th to bring the property into compliance with code sections 8-40 and 8-52, or suffer a fine of $50 per day for each day thereafter the respondent remain in violation of said code sections.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Can we have a vote?
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Mrs. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaquesi?
Yes.
Ms. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Demosas?
Yes. Okay, it passes. Ma'am, so you got 45 days.
Yes, thank you very much.
And what I would suggest, though, if you find out because of the situation here in Tarpon Springs, because
Right.
of the hurricane, that you're having problems, get a hold of Officer Gasson and you know, let him know what your
Okay.
efforts are, and I'm sure
Okay.
that
Okay.
you know, we may be able to figure out a way to get you an extension.
Okay.
But you have
I will definitely
45
do that.
days, and hopefully by the latter portion of that time, there'll be equipment available, and you'll be able to take
I
care
hope
of it.
so. Okay, I will let him know. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to case number 5. Case number 5 on the agenda is 17-800000393. The address is 715 East Lime Street. Anybody here for East Lime Street, apparently?
Yes.
All right. Ma'am, could you give us your name, please?
Gladiola Mihai.
Okay. And are you here in representing Lime Street Properties?
Yes, sir. And I do have a paper if you need.
You need to speak up for us, please.
Yes, sir, and I do have an authorization paper from
Okay.
the owner if you need that.
If you'd like to present that, we'll make it a part of the record.
Okay. And I don't.
And have you been shown the exhibits at the,
Yes. Yes.
any problem with the exhibits?
No.
Okay, the exhibits will be accepted, and when they eventually get passed in, we'll make them a permanent part of the record.
Thank you.
Okay, and Mr. Gasson, you may proceed, or, excuse me, Officer Gasson.
Thank
may
you, Officer
proceed.
Steve Gasson, City of Tarpon Springs Police Department Code Enforcement. Case before the board 17-800000393. This is 715 East Lime Street, also known as Tarpon Wood Apartments, the apartment complex directly to the north of the police station. It's owned by Lime Street Properties Incorporated, and the lady here before us, I believe, is the property manager for Tarpon Wood Apartments. Going before the board are a number of exhibits. The first set of photographs were taken June 29th. The following set of photographs were taken September 20th, yesterday. That's exhibit number 1. Exhibit number 2 are all of my notices, including the notice of violation, a final notice of violation, and a notice of hearing. Exhibit number 3 are my administrative documents, case summary, property appraiser and tax collector records, and any emails. Exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign, the posted sign. I began the case June 29th of this year. It was my initial inspection. Was called in by a Major Trill with the police department. The grass and the weeds need to be trimmed and removed from the right-of-way along the north, south, and west sides. The chain link fence is broken in numerous places. and is damaged in need of repair. Some of the railings bent across the top. There's a large amount of trash being left outside of the dumpster area, especially in the southwest corner, and it seems to be a frequent occurrence with this property. At the time, there were 2 vehicles. I'm not going to discuss those because they've been taken care of, so that ordinance violation is off the table. There's vines growing into the trees, especially along the north side, and none of the dumpsters have the required dumpster enclosures, with the exception of, I take that back, one of the dumpsters on the southwest side of the property does have a dumpster enclosure, but there's 2, one on the northwest side, one on the north side, and then one on what would be the southeast side that are in need of dumpster enclosures. So as I stated, my initial inspection was on June 29th. We mailed out the notice of violation via first class and certified mail to the New York office, the local office, and the registered agent of the property. On July 6th, the notice of violation green card addressed to the office on Tarpon Wood Lake was returned. I couldn't tell who the signature was. It is included in the record, though. July 7th of this year, the notice of violation green card returned signed by Akili Thurston. July 17th, the notice of violation addressed to Lime Street Properties was returned to sender unopened. July 18th, the certified notice of violation addressed to Lime Street Properties was also returned to sender. July 27th, the extension was requested by the property manager and granted until September 12th. I did conduct a reinspection on August 8th. They were, at that time, because it was already scheduled, they were still not in compliance, and we decided to send them a final notice of violation. The final notice of violation was sent out to the same people listed earlier. We did get a green card return signed again by Akili Thurston. I conducted a reinspection on August 25th. They've had some landscaping work done. Some of the mowing's been done. There's still a number of weeds and undergrowth and things like that growing up along the fence line. And none of the dumpster enclosures have been added. I know at one point in time there was a conversation there in the attempt right now to get contractors to take care of some of the, especially the dumpster enclosures and the fence and some of the landscaping. Moving on, August 28th, the notice of hearing was mailed first class and certified mail to the New York office, the local office, and the registered agent. On September 6th, the returned green card addressed to Lime Street Properties was signed, but again, the signature is ineligible, or I couldn't read it. Sorry. On September 8th, I posted the property. And then on September 18th, a Mark Saljan had contacted stating they were in the process of hiring a contractor to take care of the fences. He didn't make any comment about the dumpster enclosures at that time. On September 19th, the notice of violation certified mail addressed to Lime Street Properties was returned to sender unopened. And same thing with the notice of hearing was returned to sender, unable to forward. Conducted a final inspection on the 20th. The photographs are inside. There's still trash being dumped outside the dumpsters. You can see it on the September 20th pictures. There's numerous pictures of the fence still being broken. They're obviously aware of that because they stated they're working on getting a fence contractor and pulling permits. And if you look through the photographs and you see vehicles, those have both been moved. So they're not an issue. And then you can see in the photographs, especially some of the ones taken on September 20th, the large quantity of trees and undergrowth that were growing along the fence line still need to be taken care of. So just for the record, all the notices were mailed to the property owner of record, derived from the database of the Pinellas County Tax Collector and Property Appraiser. And at this point, the property is in violation of Sections 8-22, which is the accumulation of trash, Sections 8-40 and 8-52, the duty to maintain private property, and the nuisance prohibitions, 3603, fences, walls, and hedges, and being in disrepair, 13900, which are dumpster enclosures, and 13901, which are dumpster screening for those enclosures and the doors that basically need to be on the front of them. And that's all I have at this time, Mr. Chairman.
All right, ma'am, any questions for the officer?
No.
Do any of the board members have any questions for Officer Cass?
I did.
Go ahead then, please.
You're removing the inoperable vehicles from the,
They're no longer there.
okay. No, the one seemed to have a current sticker. It just had a flat tire.
For the vehicles?
Yes.
I think one was expired and one had a flat tire. but they've both been removed from the property.
So don't worry about it.
Yeah, they're,
Thank you.
Ma'am, you want to give us your side of the
Yes.
situation?
And as he said, we moved those vehicles out of the property. We got our landscaping company to start everything as far as weeds and grass. Starting next week, everything will be done. The fence will be repaired. I have here a proposal, a contract as far as the, fencing, to build the fence around the garbage. We just need 30 more days because
Speak up, ma'am, please.
they're pulling the permits today in the afternoon, so we need 30 more days to finish as far as the fencing around the garbage and having everything done.
Officer, any questions for the alleged violator?
no, I have none, thank you.
Do any of the board members have any questions? Can we get a motion in this?
Can we
thing?
wait on the motion till we've seen the exhibit?
Certainly. Good point. All right, well then pause while the exhibits are passed down.
Is this something that you're submitting into evidence?
Yes, if you need to keep it, or my boss just sent it to me today that they are.
Did you show it to the city first?
No, no.
We're gonna let them take a look at it, see if they have
Okay.
any objection.
Thank you. I have no objection. Thank you.
What's the pictures?
I do have a question for the lady.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Can you tell me have you changed ownership?
No, it's the same owner.
Same owner?
Yes, same owner for a couple of years now.
And Mr. Nash is your registered agent, he's an attorney.
Yes, sir.
Thank
you. Mark Saljani in the paper that I gave you, he's the owner there.
All set? All right, thank you. Okay, now that everyone has had an opportunity to take a look at the exhibit, I appreciate you speaking up, sir, because I was ready to roll and you had an opportunity to see the exhibits. It's important that you do. Do we need any further discussion, or will we be able to go to a roll call vote? Let's have a roll call vote.
Need a motion.
We need a motion.
We need a motion. All right, let's have a motion then. Thank you. Anybody care to make a motion in this case?
I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in the law that at the time of the alleged violation, sections 8.22, 8.40, 8-52, 36.03, 139.00, and 139.01. of the Code of Ordinances for the city of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect, and the respondent was in violation thereof.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any need for discussion in this case? Okay, apparently no need for discussion. Now we'll go for that roll call vote, please.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergerman?
Yes.
Ms. Casey?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. DeMoss?
Yes. Okay. That moves us to the penalty phase.
Yes.
And pardon?
Yes. Question.
Certainly, go ahead.
Agent Thomas Nash, he is the owner?
No, Mark Saljanin is. He is our attorney.
They live in the area?
No, he doesn't.
Who inspects or checks the place to make sure it's in compliance?
That's me. He was here, actually, the owner lived here for 5 years. He just went back to New York, and he hired me as his assistant and a couple of months there, so everything will be checked.
So you just recently took it over?
Yes.
Okay, good point.
Do you have any recommendations?
No, I'll defer that over to the board. She's already said 30 days, and I think that's reasonable.
Okay. Can we get a roll? Can we get a motion?
Sure.
Go ahead, please.
I move that the respondent shall have until October 19th to bring the property into compliance with code sections 8-22, 8-40, 8-52, 36.03, 139.00, 139.01, or suffer a fine of $50 per day for each day thereafter the respondents remain in violation of said code sections.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any need for discussion? Apparently, no need for discussion. Can we get a vote, please?
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergerman?
Yes.
Ms. Casey?
Yes.
Mrs. Archie?
Yes.
Archie. Sorry, apologize. Just
okay,
rolling
Miss
through this
Cousin.
thing here today. Mr. DeMoss?
Yes. Okay. So we're going to expect you to
Absolutely.
take care of those items before the fine goes into effect. And as one of my fellow board members has pointed out, make sure when you are in compliance that you give Officer Gasson a call so that
That is absolutely. Thank you
okay?
very much.
Thank you very much. That brings us to our next case. It's 17-800000407. It's a vacant lot between 640 and 644 Bayshore. George Carter, anybody here for the vacant lot, 640 and 644 Bayshore? Okay, no one's here for that case. Officer Gasson, if you're ready.
Thank you, Officer Steve Gasson, City of Tarpon Springs Police Department Code Enforcement case before the board 17-800000407. This is a vacant lot between 640 and 644 Bayshore Drive. Property's listed owner is a George Carter. There's some exhibits that are going to be going before the board. Exhibit number 1 is all the photographs to include my initial inspection, re-inspections, and the sign posting. Exhibit number 2 are all of my notices, including the notice of violation, final notice of violation, and a notice of hearing. Exhibit number 3 are administrative docs to include case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector, and any emails. The affidavit of posting is exhibit number 4. Initial inspection was on July 7th of this year. I was conducting an inspection in the neighborhood and neighboring properties, and I observed a violation. The trees, and you'll see it in the photograph going around, there's a large tree on the front of their lot. There's a pretty substantial branch that's about 7 feet above the sidewalk, causing a problem. It needs to be 10 feet above the sidewalk. At the time the lot needs to be mowed, it was heavily overgrown, mowed, edged, and trimmed. And there's another large tree that had some broken limbs that needed to be tended to. And then there's vines all over suffocating some trees on the back of the property close to the river. On July 7th, we mailed the notice of violation via first-class certified mail. On July 14th, we received the green card signed by a representative of the owner. On July 25th, I conducted a reinspection. The trees still aren't providing the required clearance, that big tree out front, and the vines are still suffocating the trees in the rear lot. He had mowed it at that time and taken care of some of the branches on the large tree. On July 27th, we then mailed a final notice of violation, first class and certified mail. On August 2nd of this year, the final notice of violation green card was received in the office by a representative of the owner. I conducted another inspection on August 26th with no change. On August 30th, the notice of hearing was mailed first class and certified mail. On September 8th, the sign was posted for the code board hearing. And on September 8th, the notice of hearing green card was received in the office by the owner's representative. I conducted a final inspection yesterday. The photographs were included. The large tree still not trimmed to the 10-foot clearance above the sidewalk. The vines are still suffocating the tree in the back because it's actually starting to die. And then again, the lot was now overgrown again. There wasn't any debris or anything on it related to the storm. So we've had no contact with the owner, only the certified receipts from the property owner's representative. And all of the notices were sent from information from the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collectors Database. And so at this point, I'd like the city to consider violation of City Code 8-40, the duty to maintain private property, violation 8-52, which is the nuisance prohibitions which deal with lot clearing, mowing, and tree clearances. And then City Ordinance 13302 that deals with the applicability and maintenance of trees, vines, and so forth, and to maintain them in a healthy state. The vines on the back are basically killing those trees off. And that's all I have at this point.
Okay. Any of the board members have any questions for the officer? Apparently there's no questions. Can we get a motion?
I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in the law that at the time of the alleged violations, City Code 8-40, City Code 8-52, and City Code 133.02 of the code ordinances for the city of Tarpon Springs were in force and effect, and the respondent was in violation thereof.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. I'm going to just wait until everyone's had a chance to see the photographic evidence. Any discussion? Can we get a roll call vote?
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergerman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaquesi?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. DeMasis?
Yes. Okay, that brings us to the penalty phase. Any suggestions from the city?
City would recommend 30 days, $50 fine. We've had no prior cases on this property at all in our system. So,
All right. Anybody care to make a motion?
I will.
Go ahead then, please.
I move that the respondent shall have until the 20th day of October, 2017 to bring the property into compliance with code sections 8-40, 8-52, and 133.02, or suffer a fine of $50 per day for each day thereafter the respondent remains in violation of said code sections.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any need for discussion? Apparently no need for discussion. Can we get a vote, please?
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergerman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaquesi?
Yes.
Ms. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. DeMasis?
Yes. Okay, that brings us to case number 8 on our docket, 17-80000, 435, 724 North Avenue. Anybody here for 724 North Avenue? Pardon me?
Number 7 was
That was
complied.
Oh,
7 is complied. That brings us to number 8.
Thank
That's all right. Okay, no one here. Officer Gaston, if you're ready.
Thank you. And I do have some exhibits to go forward. Officer Steve Gasson, City of Tarpon Springs Code Enforcement, case 17-800-00435. The property in question, 724 North Avenue. It's a listed property owner of a Rebecca Ford. Exhibit number 1 going around are all the photos to include the initial inspection and the sign posting. Exhibit number 2 are all of my notices, including the notice of violation and notice of hearing. Exhibit number 3 are the administrative documents to include my case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector's information, and any emails. Exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign that was posted. This case started on July 20th after we received a complaint through the city about a visibility issue on the corner of Mango Street and North Avenue at the property of 724 North Avenue. Basically a visibility triangle issue. There's a large bush, and you'll see it in the photographs going around. That was preventing traffic from going southbound on North Avenue to be able to see traffic eastbound on Mango Street. I actually made contact with one of the female residents. It was not Rebecca Ford. I believe it was her granddaughter. Advised her what the problem was. She stated they would take care of it. They did do a little bit of tree trimming, but unfortunately, as you can see in the September 20th photograph, it was still in violation of the visibility triangle, 30 feet, and across the middle. And the tree is very dense, and you can't see through it. The other aspect happened. So they eventually got that cleaned up. They did have another violation of another tree, which they were able to trim and take care of 10 feet above the sidewalk. But as I stated, that's been taken care of. So moving forward, after I talked to her on July 20th, we received another complaint around July 26th. I conducted a reinspection on August 2nd. And like I said, the tree on Mango above the sidewalk had been trimmed back. That was part of the original complaint. And they'd done a little bit of trimming on the large bush on the corner, but unfortunately it still wasn't in compliance. From that point forward, we had no other contact with them via in-person or via email. On July 25th, we mailed notice of hearing, first class and certified mail. On September 6th, the NOV was returned to the office unopened. On September 8th, I posted the property and the photographs included in the exhibits. On September 20th, yesterday, I conducted a final inspection, and the bush was still not cut back. Now, unfortunately, the lawn is overgrown. There's some tree debris that's not related to the hurricane. Although I didn't bring those forward before the board, one of the interesting things is it almost looks like the house is abandoned. It doesn't look like anybody's living in it. So that might be part of the problem. And like I stated, I've had no contact with the owner. All of our notices were mailed to the property owner of record via the Pinellas County Property Tax Collector and Property Appraisers database. And Mr. Chairman, as we've stated before, any of the exhibits, please include them into evidence for the record.
Okay, I would ask the clerk to gather up all the exhibits as they're passed along and make them a part of the record. Anybody on the board have any questions for Officer Gaston in regards to this case?
Have there been other complaints on that property other than the overgrowth?
Historically, there's been other complaints on the property for other issues, but none related to the visibility triangle. That answer your question?
Okay, anybody else have any questions? Apparently there's no further questions. We'll wait until all the exhibits have been observed by all the members. Then I'll ask for a motion. All right, anybody care to make a motion in regards to this case?
Yes, I will. I move based on testimony, evidence, and facts presented in law that at the time of the alleged violations, sections 8-52 and 37.00 of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect. The respondent was in violation thereof.
Second.
Any need for discussion? Apparently not. Can we get a vote?
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergerman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaquesi?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Demosis?
Yes. Okay, that brings us to the penalty phase. I would ask the city's inspector, any recommendation on the part of the city?
I think 30 days, as I stated before, and $50 a day is a reasonable time frame and fine.
Okay. Anybody care to make a motion?
Sure.
Go ahead, please.
I move that the respondent shall have until October 20th to bring the property into compliance with code sections 8-52 and 37-00, or suffer a fine of $50 per day for each day thereafter the respondents remain in violation of said code sections.
Second.
And we've got a second.
Second was
Mrs.
Dabbs.
Dabbs.
Thank you.
Dabbs. Any need for discussion? Apparently no discussion. Can we get a vote, please?
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Mrs. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergerman?
Yes.
Ms. Vaquesi?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Demosis?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Okay. That brings us to case number 11, vacant lot. Now that I know what VL stands for, vacant lot north of 501 Triplet Street, Mary Crockett.
I'm sorry, those are my agenda.
Anybody here for,
Sorry.
you're here? Okay, fine.
There we go. Yeah. My fingers don't work.
Ma'am,
You wanna s-
pardon?
All right,
Okay.
I'll swear you in. Raise your right hand. You swear that the testimony you're about to give is going to be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Thank you.
Can we get everybody's name, please?
My name is Colleen Williams.
Sir?
That's not my name.
Huh?
Henry.
Henry Crockett. And I'm Kathleen Crockett McFarland. And we're all children of Mary Crockett.
Okay. Very good. Do we have exhibits that,
She didn't see him.
okay, have you had a chance to take a look at those?
We did, but she didn't.
All right, take a look. And all we need to know right now is, do you have any objection with those becoming a part of the record? Is there anything there that you object to?
The back one where we clean it up. That's what the bags are. And we can't get the dumpster. The dumpster wouldn't be dropped off. And that's why all that stuff is out there, because that goes in that dumpster.
It was taken yesterday. Yeah.
Okay, no problem with those becoming part of the record?
Some of those pictures, the vehicles that was on the property has been moved.
Okay, but we're gonna find out that once we get started, but I just wanted to know if you took exception with those photographs. You can explain
No.
what's been rectified when you get a chance to testify. All right, then, Officer Gaston, if we're ready, you may proceed.
Thank you. Officer Steve Gaston, City of Tarpon Springs Police Department Code Enforcement, case 17-800000484. This is a vacant lot north of the house at 501 Triplet Street. Property owner listed as Mary Crockett. Originally, this case started August 5th of this year. Exhibit number 1 of the photographs going around, it just should be noted that the first number of them dated 8/5 were the initial inspection. The last 2 photographs dated September 20th were the ones I obviously took yesterday. So there's a significant difference. As she stated, the vehicles are gone. So the ordinance of 40.00 is not going to be before the board today. If it was still included in the notice, the only thing before the board today is 852, so I'll discuss that. Exhibit number 1, as I stated, are all the photographs. All of the notices are exhibit number 2, including the notice of violation and notice of hearing. Exhibit number 3 are my administrative documents, and exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign that was posted. As I stated, I started this case out August 5th of this year. Originally, it stemmed from a citizen complaint about a southern property, which then the property across the street, and it ended up being basically the whole block. So I had about 7 cases stem from one complaint. When I noted that at that point in time, there were a number of vehicles, as I stated, there was a large amount of debris being stored on the property, and debris is defined not just as trash, but it can be unused equipment. It can be a number of things. It's kind of a broad definition of what debris is. And then the lot needed to be maintained, mowed, and trimmed. I did have some conversation with a young man out in front of the house that day, and unfortunately, I don't know what his name was, and I don't know if he was even any relation
No,
to you
he
folks.
wasn't.
So
Yeah, he was nobody
then moving
really.
forward, when nothing was done, and I wasn't sure that the young man I spoke to was related to the property, so we went ahead and mailed a notice of violation on the August 7th to the property owner listed via first class and certified mail. On August 10th, we did have some contact with one of the representatives of the property. On August 26th, I conducted a reinspection, and at that time, the vehicle and a number of the debris was still there. I didn't have any registrations or any paperwork to confirm if the vehicles were registered or not. And at that point in time, we opted to send it to Code Board. On August 29th, the notice of hearing was mailed first class and certified mail. On September 8th, I posted the property. And then as you can see in the final 2 photographs taken yesterday, all of the vehicles have been moved. There's still a significant amount of trash and debris, and it obviously looks like it's a work in progress at this point in time. But unfortunately, Code Board today. So before the board, I'd like them to consider a violation of 8-52. And as I stated, there's no other violations at this time. And all of my notices were mailed to the property owner of record via the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector database.
Okay. I'm not sure which one of you wants to be the spokesman, but do you have any questions for Officer Gasson?
No, other than I would like to.
Questions?
You'll get a chance to make this statement.
I would like to ask officers. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
Gasson.
Can you speak into the microphone,
Oh,
please?
okay.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Officer Gasson, I'm Kathleen Crockett McFarland. That's my mother's property. And I just wanted to ask, when you put on the paper that I just read here, nuisance, is that just that the area need to be cleaned? Because that's what we are doing every afternoon after work. We're trying to clean up that property, but there's a lot of bushes and stuff from the hurricane as well that thrown us back, but we are trying to clean the property and bring it up to accordance. So I wanted to know what is the other nuisance, what you consider nuisance from this, whoever's complaining.
It's kind of an umbrella statement. It just talks about under 852, as I mentioned earlier, talking about debris. It has to do with trash. It has to do with old equipment. It has to do with tree branches or any of those kind of things. That's kind of where it falls under.
The trees gonna stay on the property.
So do you consider a barbecue grill a nuisance?
No, ma'am. Not unless it's just an old piece of equipment sitting there rusting away, not being used, because it does define as unused equipment or dilapidated, falling apart.
And
So
if
using
you're-
it, it's perfectly
If
acceptable.
you're looking from the street, how can you tell whether or not it's being used or not?
Ma'am, I have the photographs that were submitted, and I think a number of plastic trash bags, stacks of wood piles and things like
That is
that.
because we're cleaning the
Yeah,
yard.
I'm not looking at one item in particular. Once you guys are in compliance, and if you want to invite me out there to take a look, we can go by it piece by piece if you'd like.
Okay,
See that
tomorrow,
tree on the right,
which tree?
belongs to the other property with the beehive in it. And nobody won't cut it because it's got a beehive in it.
Okay, there's a tree that hangs over into my mother's property, and it belongs to David Archie, I guess, because he has the property next to my mother's, and it has a beehive in it,
A very big one.
a big one,
And
and nobody wants to cut that tree. So we need to find out if we can get a bee catcher or whoever to get the beehive out so that the limb can be cut.
If after this you want to contact our office, we can, or you can just Google search You know, there's beekeepers that we may have some phone numbers in the office. I don't know off the top of my head though. We're not really supposed to recommend people, so you'd kind of have to look yourself and to take care of that. I honestly, part of my case had nothing to do with the tree branch.
Okay.
So
And,
up until this moment, I knew nothing about it.
and the illegal dumping that was done on the backside of that property, that wasn't by us.
I'm sorry?
If somebody dumped on the backside of that house, that old house next door,
Okay.
they dumped behind it.
And
then-
that's what we're cleaning up
And
now.
when we moved the truck out, that's what we found behind all the bushes, was the tires and everything else. The same
Are
person.
you talking the little structure to the north of, because there's 501 Triplet, which is the
Yes.
house. Then there's a vacant lot that's,
Yes, the vacant lot is
that's what
my
we're
mother's.
talking about. And we're not,
Well, they dumped a bunch of stuff right in them bushes where that tree hangs down.
unfortunately, if it's on your property, it's your responsibility.
All right,
Sorry.
that's fine.
And anything that you'd, any of the three of you would like to add for the record on your side?
We do have a roll-off coming tomorrow. That's why all the trash is out there.
Okay.
About how
Any,
long?
anybody on the board have any questions?
I do.
Go ahead.
Officer Gadsden, they mentioned the fact that the tree is in another owner's yard. How does that affect that property? If the tree itself is on someone else's property?
Well, property owners have the right to, basically, if you take your property lines and extend them straight up into the air, if a tree is extending over from a neighboring property onto your property, you have the right to maintain that aspect of the tree. You can't do it in such a manner that would kill the tree or significantly damage the tree. But if there's branches hanging over your fence or something like that, you're allowed to trim them. Then beyond that, the only other thing would be legally to seek injunctive relief through the court or something to that effect.
So
And
you
Mr.
don't-
Trask might be able to answer
You
the
don't
legality
really
side
have
better.
to have permission from City Hall to trim what's over on your property.
No, they do not. Not to trim.
All right.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for any of Mrs. Crockett's children that are here?
I do.
Go ahead.
Do you think 30 days would give you enough time to clean up the property? I don't think the tree was the issue, it's the other debris.
But we done bagged up everything else.
We're just waiting on the dumpster, so yes, 30.
30 days
45
would-
days, yes.
would
Because
do
we're trying to do it after hours, after working.
Uh-huh.
So,
That's why I want to make sure we're giving you the right amount of time.
yes, thank you.
Okay. Does anybody care to make a motion in this case?
Could I have exhibit number 4?
Exhibit number 4?
It's right down here. Mrs. Wade, it's right in front of you.
Oh, I missed one, I'm so sorry.
Oh,
All right,
This is just the affidavit of posting.
okay. Thank you.
May I ask one thing? Is there any way that if there's any other notices that they come to me?
She can get that information and we can deal
Okay.
with that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, again, anybody care to make a motion in this case?
I will.
Go ahead, please.
I move
Put
based
it
on the
here.
testimony, evidence, and facts presented in law that at the time of the alleged violation, sections 8-52 of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect. The residents was in violation thereof.
Okay, any discussion? All right, if there's no need for discussion, we'll go for a vote. Can we get a vote, please?
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Miss Wade?
Yes.
Miss Dabbs?
yes.
Mr. Bergerman?
Yes.
Miss Vacasie?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Undermasis?
Yes. Okay, that takes us to the penalty phase. And I would just point out that we did hear testimony in response to a question from Ms. Wade as to how long the Crockett's felt that it would take them within 30 days, they should be able to be in compliance. Just want to point that out. Anybody care to make a motion? First of all, Officer Gaston, I overlooked you on the part of the city. Any recommendation?
Just same based on what the Crockett said, 30 days is reasonable and the $50 a day fine after that.
All right. Anybody care to make a motion?
I will.
Go ahead,
I
Ms.
move that
Archer.
the respondent shall have until October 20th to bring the property into compliance with code sections 8-52 or suffer a fine of $50 per day for each day thereafter the respondent remains in the violation of said code section.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Can we get a vote, please?
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergerman?
Yes.
Ms. Vacacy?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Demosas?
Yes. Okay, so hopefully you'll get it resolved within the time limit, and please get a hold of the code enforcement inspector so that we can get this cleared off and
Call this case.
okay, Mr. Truscott Wilson, but flip to the
Okay,
page.
all right, that's fine.
Thank you very much.
I just have one suggestion. My mother has owned that property for over, well, it's been in effect for over 100 years.
Wow.
This is the first time we've ever had this problem. We've never been in a situation like this. We don't understand the process. When we came in, we were given some pictures. My suggestion to the board is that when you have these hearings, that you let somebody know what is involved, what is entailed in the meeting itself.
I'd like to respond to that. And I wish we could figure out, maybe put something in everybody's utility bill. This meeting is broadcast on cable station like 12, 13, 15 times a month. And it's a really good way, because you're right, this can be really intimidating.
Right.
And so if people would know to watch that, they could see that, we're not sitting up here with hatchets and, we just, it's quasi judicial, but we're willing to listen and find out. And I appreciate that you brought that up, and that you guys came here today.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to speak up as the chairman. I'm sorry that you got upset, all right? But I think that you understand now what the situation is. We saw the photos. There clearly was debris that needed to be taken care of, and I don't think that's an argument. So you've got 30 days to clean it up, and I'm sure we'll never see you here again.
Yeah, I understand, and I understand the violations. And what I'm saying is that we've never had a problem before. The property's been in the family for over 100 years. And we will do what we can. I did not, neither one of us knew of any notice that was sent to the house.
Okay, unfortunately, the notice is sent to the property owner.
Right.
And whether, sometimes that property owner might be an elderly person. My mother just passed away. She was 97 years old. She was getting letters and not even bothering to open them up. So
well, my mother is 81 years old. She has dementia.
Okay.
She hides mail. We have no idea what's coming there. That's why I requested that the mail be sent.
Absolutely.
Anything be sent to me.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, and I think that you'll get this resolved, and I think that we'll go on for another 100 years without having to see you here again.
All right. Thank you very much.
I know how she feels. I get upset.
One thing I point out, as soon as you get it into compliance, give Officer Gasson's office a call. He'll come out and inspect it, and we'll be finished with it, okay? Thank you.
Did you get the lady's address?
All right, let's call the next case.
Lady,
And that's number
name and address. Will you email me them all?
1217 Castle Terrace. Okay. Peter and Maria Castritos, okay? You're here for that. Thank you very much. This is case number 17-8000410. Has the exhibit's been passed over for inspection? Any problem with those becoming a part of the record, ma'am?
We found the right ones.
Pardon me?
We found the right pictures.
And would you please speak up
Yeah.
nice and loud into the microphone?
Is it here, okay?
Okay, thank you very much. Officer Gaston, if you're ready.
Thank you. Officer Gasson, City of Tarpon Springs Police Department Code Enforcement. The case before the board is currently in compliance, so it's strictly here to be established of ordinances 8-40 and 8-52. The case number 17-8000410. It's a vacant lot with a city address of 1217 Castle Terrace. Peter and Maria Castrios are the owners of the property. Exhibit number 1 going around are all of the photographs. It should be noted in the photographs that the first ones were taken when the property was in violation. The final photograph to be considered is the last one, which was dated September 8th. I didn't take a September 20th one, and as you can see, the property was in compliance on September 8th. Moving forward, the exhibit number 1 are all my photographs. Exhibit number 2 are all of my notices, including the notice of violation, notice of hearing. Exhibit number 3, the administrative documents. And exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. On July 7th of this year, I conducted my initial inspection based on a neighbor complaint. The lot's very overgrown and needs to be mowed and maintained. On the same date, the notice of violation was mailed first class certified mail. On July 25th, I conducted a reinspection, and the lot had been somewhat mowed. There's still a large amount of overgrowth, and there was tree and landscaping debris towards the rear of the property. This is well before the storm. We sent the notice of hearing on August 14th of this year, and we had changed the hearing date, and that's the reason why it was originally going to go in August, but we pushed it out to now. On August 21st, Maria had stated the property was ready for inspection. I did go out and post a sign on 9/8. That's when that photograph was taken. And I did conduct another inspection just to make sure it hadn't grown up or anything else. And the primary reason there was no photographs is there was probably about 2 8-foot-high piles of debris stacked right in front of it, so that they wouldn't have been very representative of the property. So the September 8th photo is much better representation of how it is now. As stated, Maria had come into the office and spoke to us. And in closing, just want to make sure the board understands that they are currently in compliance, and I'm strictly asking for the property to be established based on priors. All of my notices were mailed to the property owner of record based on the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collectors database. And then if the exhibits could be placed into evidence.
Okay, all the exhibits will be gathered up by the clerk and made a part of the record. Thanks for pointing that out, officer. Ma'am, any questions for the inspector?
No, I agree.
Okay. Do any of the board members have any questions for Officer Gass?
I did.
Go ahead, please.
In the papers, it said there was a previous violation, 2016.
Yeah, there was one in 2016, and there was numerous priors, and I don't know at what point they began to own the property. I didn't look at that, but 2016 was the last one. There was 2 in 2013, 2011, 2010, 2009, 2008, and 2005.
So this is a recurring issue with this property. Thank
you. Okay.
How long have you owned the property?
Long time. I believe all these were ours, but one of those was a tree that was hit by a lightning. We also have the neighbor on the back where one of the branches was. He throws probably, it's very obvious, there is bamboo growing on his land, and bamboo is back on my land. I don't know what to do with that. I have asked help, and they told me that if I haven't seen him throwing it there, they cannot do anything. So,
Okay, anybody care to make a motion in this case?
She can present her case.
I'm sorry. Ma'am, I didn't give you an opportunity to give us your side of the
well,
story.
the only thing I have is some pictures more recent, like some in August and some actually right after we cleaned it right now. It's well cleaned, so hopefully. I heard the other lady talking about the other vacant lot on Castle Terrace, and she talked about the bush hog. Yeah, we learned about that too. My husband had to rent one, clean it, and now it's well cleaned, so it's very easy to maintain. And I'm sorry, I remembered one more thing. I did have someone cleaning my lot periodically, but that's when he stopped for some reason. He was very busy, and that's when it grew up and needed the bush hog.
Does any, Officer Gaston, any questions?
No, I have no questions and no objections to the photographs that.
All right. Does anybody on the board want to ask the alleged violator any questions?
Yeah, do you live in Tarpon Springs?
I live very close, and I work in Tarpon Springs. I live in Holiday.
I think.
Has everyone seen the exhibit? All right.
The photos from,
We're waiting for
Okay.
her photos.
Let's verify what Officer Gaston already indicated. Go ahead.
When we've had repeated violations.
Officer Gaston, there's a question for you.
Sorry.
It's procedural. When we have the repeated violations, were they cited before so that then that fine kicks back in again?
There was no prior repeat violation. This is what the board's establishing today. So moving forward,
Okay.
she'll be considered a repeat violator, and if there's any violations at that point, then she'll be fined based on what the board.
I got confused because of that citation on there that
Yeah.
indicated. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we just need the first half of the motion. because it's in-
Okay, can we get a motion here since the, there's no disparity between the city's position that's indicated by photographs and the alleged violator. So let's move ahead if we can. Anybody care to make a motion in this case?
Sure.
Go ahead, sir.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in the law that at the time of the alleged violation, sections 8-40 and 8-52 of the Code and Ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect. Respondent was in violation thereof.
Second.
You want
Thought we were
to
doing
add,
the-
however,
This is
they are
just to
now in
establish.
compliance?
If they were,
Right?
no.
Yeah, it's the second
Take a look
page.
at your,
Other page.
Oh,
where it indicates established a violation.
It's the second page.
Call for motion for finding respondent in violation.
I guess I'm confused.
I'll
I
do it.
understood that that they were in violation when we came into this meeting. Is that correct?
No.
No, they're in compliance as of today. So they're just being established.
Okay,
All you need to do is add to your motion that they're in compliance now.
okay. They're in compliance now.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? Any recommendation on the, I'm sorry.
That's it.
Got ahead of myself. Okay, let's call for a vote.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergman?
Yes.
Ms. Casey?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Demasis?
Okay, the motion passes. Attorney Trask, would you just explain
Sure.
to Maria what she has to do now, what might happen if there's a further violation?
You've been found in violation of sections 8-40 and 8-52. You, as the property owner, need to make sure that that property remains in compliance. Should it falls into non-compliance with any time within the next 5 years, it's going to be considered a repeat violation. In a repeat violation, the fine begins to run on the day of the inspection. There will be no compliance time, and you could be fined up to $500 a day. So it's very important to keep the property in compliance.
Okay,
Okay.
I understand.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Brings us to our next case. It's a vacant lot case 17-8000468, Cedar Street. Vacant lot, Stanley and Demetrius Kavoris. Anybody here for that particular piece of property? No? Okay, no one here for that property. All right. Officer Gaston, if you're ready.
Thank you. Case 17-8000468, it's a vacant lot on Cedar. It's across the street from 53080 Cedar. Stanley Kavoris, Demetrios Kavoris are the listed property owners of it. The exhibits going around, exhibit number 1 are the photographs of the inspection and the sign posting. Exhibit number 2 are my notices, including the notice of violation, the notice of hearing. Exhibit number 3 are the administrative documents, and exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. Case started out on August 1st when I conducted my initial inspection based on a neighbor complaint. I was actually conducting an inspection at 538 West Cedar, which was across the street, and observed the property here. The lot was extremely overgrown. It needs to be mowed, edged, and trimmed. There's Brazilian pepper trees on the property which need to be removed. On August 1st, we sent a notice of violation and a notice of hearing mailed first class and certified mail. It should be noted that on this particular case, we went directly to sending a notice of violation and notice of hearing due to all the priors for the exact same offenses over the years.
Could you speak up?
Sure. We sent it directly to Code Board and sent a notice of violation and a notice of hearing at the same time due to the frequency of their violations and the number of prior violations on the property. For violations of 8-40, 8-52, and 13302, which is the applicability and maintenance of trees, which includes the invasive species of Brazilian pepper trees that need to be removed from their property. On August 14th, the updated notice of hearing was mailed first class because we had a date issue on it. On September 6th, 2017, the notice of violation certified mail addressed to Stanley Demetrios Kavouris was returned unopened. The notice of hearing that was mailed and addressed to the same was also returned unopened. On September 8th of this year, I posted the property. On September 14th, I conducted a reinspection and there was no change. On September 18th, the owner called and to update the status, and basically he advised he's having issues with a landscaper and then the storm added to it. So he's trying to get it done as soon as possible. When I conducted my final inspection on September 20th, there was still no change. And as I stated, we had the conversation 2 days before on the 18th with the owner. It should be noted that all the notices were sent to the listed property owner based on the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collectors Database. And that's all I have at this point. And I just have the board consider 8-40, the duty to maintain private property, violation of 8-52, which are the nuisance prohibitions which deal with clearing their lot, and 13302, the applicability and maintenance of the trees. At this
Does
point,
anybody on the board have any questions for the officer?
So they're not signing for,
that is correct.
they're returned unopened.
But they did get some sort of notice because they contacted the office, and we did have some communication with them, so I guess they just chose not to open the letters.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, they could have, we send them first class and certified, so they very well could have got the first class letters, and we don't know about those.
Anyone else have any questions? Anybody care to make a motion in this case?
I will.
Go ahead then, please.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented and law that at the time of the alleged violations, sections 8-40, 8-52, and 133.02 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect. The respondents were in violation thereof.
Any second?
Second.
Okay, any need for discussion? Apparently, no need for discussion. We'll call for a vote.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Miss Wade?
Yes.
Miss Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergman?
Yes.
Miss Vacacy?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Demossis?
Yes. Okay, before we move for a penalty phase, let me ask you, Officer Gasson, any recommendation on the part of the city?
There's a significant number of priors, but he has been in contact with us, and he's trying to track down his landscaper. So I would pretty much go with the standard 30 days and $50 a day fine at this point, unless the board finds something different.
All right, thank you.
I'll do it.
Go ahead.
I move that the respondent shall have until the 20th day of October to bring the property into compliance with code sections 8-40, 8-52, and 133.02, or suffer a fine of $100 per day for each day thereafter the respondents remain in violation of said code sections.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call for a vote.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Miss Wade?
Yes.
Miss Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergman?
Yes.
Miss Vacacy?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Demossis?
Yes. Okay, that brings us to our next case, number 14 on the docket. It's 17-800-00482. It's a vacant lot, Safford and Pine Street. Anybody here for that property? Okay, sir, can you give us your name, please?
Nick Mavromatis.
Okay, thank you. And you're representing?
Denami Holdings.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, have you been handed some exhibits that
I have.
any objection with those becoming
None.
part of the record? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Officer Gasson, if you're ready then?
I am, and for the board's information, this property is in compliance, so it's here simply to be established. Case number 17-800-00482 is a vacant lot at the corner of Safford and Pine Street. It's on the southwest corner, and it's owned by Denami Holdings. And what I'm bringing before the board to be established is a violation of City Code 8-40 and 8-52, which is the duty to maintain private property and the nuisance prohibitions of maintaining those lots. Exhibit number 1 going before the board are all of the photographs, including the initial inspection and the sign posting. Exhibit number 2 are all of my notices, including notice of violation and the notice of hearing. Exhibit number 3 are the administrative documents. Exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. This was related to a couple of the other cases the board's already heard, and some of the properties in the area. I received a complaint about the overgrown lot, was flagged down by a bicyclist on the trail. At that point in time, on August 5th, and then on August 7th, the notice of violation and the notice of hearing were mailed first class and certified to the owner and the registered agent. August 11th, a representative of the owner called to advise that they're in the process of trying to develop that property. It's I think they're putting some apartments on there. They're in the permit process and going through all the boards with the city. It's just taking time. Unfortunately, we've had a few priors with them, and that's the reason why it's before the board now. On August 16th of this year, the notice of violation and the notice of hearing, the green cards were received, signed. On August 17th, the notice of violation and the notice of hearing green card from the registered agent were received, signed into the office. August 19th, I conducted a reinspection and noted that the property was in compliance. On September 8th, I posted the property and had some contact with, I spoke to Nick at the beginning, but I've had contact with somebody in his office prior to that and explained the situation and what the circumstances were. It should be noted that all the notices were sent based on the Pinellas County Property Appraiser and Tax Collector's website. And I'd like the board to consider establishing the property in violation of City Codes 8-40 and 8-52. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and I would ask the clerk, all of the exhibits, please gather them up and make them a part of the record as they're passed down. Sir, any questions for the officer?
No.
No? Okay. Any of the board members have any questions for Officer Gatt? Apparently not. Sir, you want to give us your side of the situation?
It's pretty straightforward. There was some overgrowth on the property, but this has been a pretty lengthy lengthy process with the city trying to get the permit for the development, and it's taken longer than expected. There's been some problems within the city. Nonetheless, we got it taken care of when we got the notice, and I think it's the second time that we had to go out there and mow it. And in speaking with the officer earlier, and he did mention now, I was a little taken by that property because there's a lot of properties around there that are in really bad shape. And but he did say that he's gone out and done some other inspections, and I just feel that as far as that goes, that it should be, everyone should be treated equally and fairly in regards to that sort of a situation. Ours was some minor overgrowth. Some of them are, there's some real problems in that area that I feel should be addressed by the city. But other than that, nothing at all, sir.
Officer, any questions for the witness?
I have none.
Okay. Do any of the board members have any questions?
You're in compliance?
Yes, sir, they are.
Thank you.
Apparently no questions. Anybody care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead then, please.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented in the law that at the time of the alleged violations, section 8-40 and 8-52 of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs were in full force and effect. At the time of the notice of violation, the respondents were in violation of said code sections. However, they are now in compliance.
Second.
Okay, any need for discussion, or can we go right to a vote? Let's go to a vote.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergman?
Yes.
Ms. Vacasie?
Yes.
Ms. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. DeMontis?
Yes. All right, and Attorney Trask, would you please explain the situation?
Yes, the property owner, Dynami Holdings LLC, has been found in violation of City Code Sections 840 and 852. You are now in compliance. There is no fine. However, should the property be cited and found in violation again of those two code sections within 5 years of the date of the order, it will be considered a repeat violation and be subject to $500 a day fines.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
What you said. Is that code, whatever you're referring to there, is that only because it's had a problem before?
Yes, sir.
Is that
Once you've
right?
been found in violation today, if it happens again, you're considered a repeat violation. It doesn't
So
have
any-
anything to
any-
do
yeah.
with prior to today.
Right.
If you had been cited before and brought before the code enforcement before, this would be a repeat violation. You would have subjected yourself to large fines.
So I have another question. Is it all right to ask?
Mhm.
Some of the other folks that were up here that had other violations, you did not read that or explain that to them. Is there a reason why?
There's only two cases that came up today, one on Castle Terrace 1217 in your case, where they were in compliance at the time of the hearing. So they were violation-only cases. So they would be subjected to the same things. Those were all first violations, just like yours. They were subject to a fine if they didn't bring it into compliance. You're not subject to a fine right now.
So once they're brought into compliance, these other properties, then if there was repeat, they would be subject to the same?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's it. I'm good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
That brings us to our next case. It's 17-800000497. It's a vacant lot east of 528 Martin Luther King Jr. Drive.
Mr. Chairman, is there any possibility I can 2 minutes?
Pardon me?
Can I have 2 minutes?
Yeah, we take a 2-minute recess.
I'll be right back.
Okay, we'll stand in recess for 2 minutes.
Oh, goodness.
Stop us after this case. We need to get out of here to just recess. Got the case.
Yeah,
you can do that at any time, but the problem is that when you do that, it requires renoticing all the
Just at
people.
home or,
Well,
I didn't see this.
Well, I appreciate that, but, you know, in the worst case scenario, I'm just gonna
Okay.
get up and go.
I didn't
Yeah.
find it. I didn't get it.
Okay.
Or if I did, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, you're really close. You're really close.
I didn't see this until just now.
Have the originals, exhibit, let me see.
All right, let the record indicate that the time is 4:09 PM, and apparently we're once again ready to proceed. So we're back in session,
Was he here a month or two?
and we have some people at the podium. Sir, would you identify yourself?
Jerry Thelfilopoulos. I'm a lawyer, and I'm here on behalf of Reverend James Warren and Care to Share.
All right, thank you. Have you been handed or seen some photographs that I believe the city wants to place into the record? Any objections to those photographs?
No objection.
No, thank you. All right, then, Officer Gasson, if you're ready, you may proceed.
Thank you, Officer Steve Gasson, City of Tarpon Springs Police Department Code Enforcement. Case before the board is 17-800000497. This is a vacant lot east of 528 Martin Luther King, parcel number 1327156492600200100. The property owner is listed as a company Care to Share with James Warren as the registered agent. Going before the board, exhibit number 1 are all of the photographs that were taken, including the inspection and the reinspection and the sign posting. Exhibit number 2 are all the notices, to include the notice of violation and notice of hearing. Exhibit number 3 are the administrative docs, including the case summary, property appraiser and tax collector's records, sunbiz.org registered agent records, which shows it is inactive, the officer emails, and letters submitted to the Code Enforcement Board. Exhibit number 4 is an affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. Before the board today are violations of City Code 8-40 and 8-52, duty and maintenance of private property and nuisance prohibitions. Initial inspection was conducted on August 11th based on a neighbor complaint of being the lot's overgrown. It should be noted for the record that the lot is 7,000 square feet based on the property appraiser website. Is showing it to be 140 feet deep and 50 feet wide. So it's subject of the requirements to completely be mowed, and the 30-15 rule does not apply to this property. The lot had vines and pepper trees on it, which also need to be removed. At this point in time, I can't determine from my final inspection if there's still any remaining pepper trees, so I'm not going to be bringing forth the 133.02 violation, just the 840 and the 852. On August 15th, the notice of violation was mailed first class and certified mail to the owner and agent. On August 16th, the notice of hearing was mailed first class to the certified owner and to the certified mail to the owner and the agent. On August 22nd, a notice of violation certified mail addressed to Care to Share Incorporated and a notice of violation certified mail addressed to James Warren were both returned signed by James Warren. On August 22nd, a notice of hearing certified mail addressed to James Warren was returned unsigned. On August 22nd, the notice of hearing certified mail addressed to Care to Share was returned signed by James Warren. On September 7th, the registered agent James Warren called to say his property was ready for reinspection. On September 8th, I posted the property and a photograph was taken. On September 14th, we received a number of letters in the office from Mr. Warren, his son, and some acquaintances. And then on September 20th, I conducted a final inspection yesterday. And the lot still hasn't been fully maintained. It still has a large amount of undergrowth towards what would be the south side. And like I said, I couldn't determine if there were still pepper trees on it or not because he's clearly got a no trespassing sign posted on his property, so I can't go on to it to observe those. So I won't even bring those before the board at this time. It should be noted that all of my notices were mailed to the property owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Tax Collector and Property Appraisers Database. And then Mr. Chairman, if you would please enter those exhibits for the record.
Okay, I'd ask the clerk, as the exhibits are passed down, if you'd gather them up and make them a part of the permanent record. Am I correct in my understanding that, as listed on the agenda, the alleged violation of City Code 133.02 is not in consideration?
That is correct. It's just going to be 840 and 852.
All right. Any questions for the officer from you?
Yes, thank you. You had indicated a neighbor complained. How was that complaint brought forward?
I believe I was flagged down while I was sitting on a property on the the southeast corner of Distant and MLK. And I don't know who the neighbor was that they just lived in. I've seen him before, but I couldn't tell you what his name was, and just complained about that property and a couple other properties, one of them being the property that we were sitting on just to the south of us, that the city ended up taking over, and we had to remove a bunch of stuff from trash and debris from that. So there's about 3 or 4 properties in the area they complained about.
The property that's to the south, you said the city took it over?
The city ended up at Distant and MLK, not to the property in question today, but at Distant and MLK on the southeast corner, we ended up with 3 of the 4 parcels there.
Okay.
And there was a bunch of trash and debris, and somebody complained about that and the other one.
The property was mowed, am I correct, approximately how many feet from the road or sidewalk?
I couldn't tell you without measuring it.
Okay, but it was well over 30 feet, correct?
I would assume.
Okay. Nothing further.
Okay.
Actually, I take that back. I do have some exhibits that I'd like to go over with Officer Gasson. Thank you. On Exhibit 1.
The pictures?
Yes. There's Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 2. That's the current state of the property. Is that pretty much how it's reflected?
I would say so, yes, sir.
Okay. And then Exhibit 3, let me ask you about this property which would be to the left of the subject property if you're facing it. Is that accurate?
I can't see since they're all parcel numbers and the map image isn't highlighted. So I do believe that Herman does own the one. You're talking to the east, correct?
To the east, correct.
I believe he does own that property, yes, sir.
And you'd agree with me it's approximately 50 by 140?
According to the property, or according to your printout, which is the property appraisers, yes, sir.
Okay, and then Exhibit 4.
Correct. Go ahead.
It has the Pinellas County Community Housing Program Land Trust owning that property. Is that the property that would be to the west of the subject property we're here on?
Yes, sir.
And you would agree with me that property is also 50 by 140?
According to this document, yes, sir.
And in that Exhibit 4, do you see the pictures attached?
You're talking the...
No, there should be, is there additional pictures on that? There you go.
Yes, sir.
Do you recognize those pictures to be that property?
If it's the one to the west of Mr. Warren's, at least the first one, because I can see the fence and I can actually see Mr. Warren's property. As far as the ones after that, I can't tell you because I've never been back on that property.
Well, let me ask you this. Did you observe any violations on that property when you were there for Mr. Warren's?
I don't recall because I don't have, I'm not here on a case for the neighboring property.
Okay, but I'm asking, did you observe any?
Not at the time, no.
Okay, in looking at those pictures, would you agree with me there'd be violations for overgrowth, undergrowth?
Certainly.
Nuisance violations, correct?
Sure.
And you didn't observe any on that piece of property?
I do now, so we'll put a case in for it and take care of it.
Let me take you to Exhibit 5.
Okay.
That's the Duke Energy. They own that property?
Yes, sir.
So if you're looking at the subject property, to your left would be Mr. Winthrop's property, and then to the left of that would be Duke Energy, correct?
Correct.
And that property, according to the property appraiser, is 111 by 40. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
And you see the picture attached to it?
Yes, sir.
Did you cite them for the that grass that's in excess of 2 feet, maybe 3 feet tall?
I frequently call them. I haven't cited them. I frequently call them.
Okay, why do you give them the courtesy of calling and other people?
Because the city actually ends up going out and taking care of that. I don't know why, but I've called Duke, and I don't know if they have something going on with the city where the city takes care of it, but the city has mowed that property a few times.
Okay.
And then I just haven't asked or gone down it because we don't typically cite the city. I realize it's owned by Duke Energy, but Duke Energy has numerous properties throughout the city, and we have contact them through they have a specific phone number and an email address, which I don't have obviously with me, that we can send in complaints regarding their properties. And I've talked to Joe Wraith, who works for the city, and asked them to, because when we were dealing with the property to the east, he sent a crew out and mowed a good portion of that probably 3 months ago. And it's obviously grown back during the wet season.
And my question to you is, the city does not own that. That is Duke Energy. Am I correct?
Correct.
My question is, why do you give them special dispensation and not give the general public the same courtesy of a phone call? Go ahead and cut it. I'm not going to go ahead and cite you.
It's discretion.
And it's your discretion, correct? And you have the authority to selectively enforce what you want.
There's no selective enforcement, sir.
Well, if the law is applied evenly, or the ordinance, wouldn't you agree Duke Energy should also be cited?
No, I can certainly leave you a green card. I can leave you a phone call. I can send you an email and make notice of a violation. If it's not taken care of, they would be subject to the exact same things everybody else is, a notice of violation, a notice of hearing, and I'd be standing before the board with a representative from Duke.
No, but you have the authority when you believe it's a nuisance, like that is. Would you agree it's a nuisance?
It appears that it may be a violation based on that photograph.
And based on that, you can bring Duke Energy before this board without giving them any notice other than you have a hearing and you have to come into compliance.
That could certainly happen, yes.
So why haven't you done that with Duke Energy, and why do you do that with the citizens?
I've done it with numerous citizens. There's plenty of them in town that I've just called up and said, you have a violation.
I know, but my question is, why are you giving special consideration to Duke Energy?
Duke Energy is not a subject here. We're dealing with Mr. Warren's property.
I understand. My question, though, is why are you treating Duke Energy different from any citizen that pays taxes in this city? Why are you treating Duke Energy as they're privileged or something?
I've already stated that other citizens have been given that same privilege.
Okay, why didn't you give Mr. Warren that privilege in this case then?
I don't have a phone number for Mr. Warren. And Mr. Warren is also very, very confrontational.
You don't have an address for him?
Well, when we send him a notice and put a case in, yes.
So you're saying if you have a phone number for somebody, you'll just call them instead of issuing them citations?
Possibly.
I have nothing further of the witness.
All right. Do any of the people with you here to ask any questions?
Yes, Mr. Warren would like to address the board. Thank you.
Well, hold on a second now. We're not, this is
Right now it's
cross-examination.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Interrogatory,
No further cross-examination. We're done with
All
it.
right, and nobody with you has any questions?
He's the lawyer. He's running the show there, so.
No. We're done with him.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. We're done with Officer Gasson.
Okay.
Just wait, you're going to get to speak.
Okay.
Okay?
Anybody have any questions for Officer Gass?
The sign, no trespassing, is that what it says?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to enter these?
Yeah, I'd like to introduce those. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Which sign are you asking about, ma'am?
The one that says, I forgot what it
On
said.
that fence.
No trespassing or something on
Yes.
the property. Do you know when that was put up?
After the last violation that I had with Mr. Warren, he put that sign up.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna give you an opportunity, sir, to present your side of the situation.
Yes. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Reverend James Warren.
And could you tell the board your concerns and what you'd like them to hear?
I'd like for y'all to hear. I got letters been sent to y'all, been sent to his boss by this man. I had got $300 ticket before. The state threw it out because I testified against him, but homeless man. I'm glad to see Officer Timberson here because I made a complaint
on this man ever since he had a problem with me. Now, he is a liar. I called him, left a message for him, my number and my cellular. And guess what? I bought that piece of property when I was 18 years old. And one thing about that piece of property, that property always be in compliance until now with him. But I want to say something else. My letter trail was proved that he is a liar. Now, Mr. Dudley Sally sent y'all a copy letter stating what problem this man had with me. Commissioner Sally, he sent it to the board, to y'all, to every last one of y'all. And I want to say one more thing. In my presence, that man right there, I'm seeing it real nice, officer. In the front of my son, I reached to shake his hand. I say, Steve, that's what this thing got. Call me. I don't do hands. Now, if very near in the future, if y'all see this man keep finding me, then, Chief, you shall fire him. I got proof. By the way, the state attorney's office told me I'm a very detailed person. Chief, no. Chief got an open door policy. This time, Chief did not return my call. I don't know, Chief want me to help get rid of this man, but I will with the letter trail. I got fines from this man. You know, the guy got shot in the head. I testified to the chief and Officer Timothy about Steve Gatson. Steve Gatson had a problem with black people. He beat a black man up, knocked all the teeth out of his mouth, beat him up. I am state witness on a lot of stuff against Steve
Chairman,
Gatson.
I'd like to object to this.
And there ain't no objection.
Objection.
No objection on that.
Let me.
It's the truth.
I'm not arguing with you, sir, but I think that I want to point out something, and maybe your attorney can explain this to you. This is not the right venue for any complaint about Officer Gasson's
Fines, sir.
Sir, this is we deal with city codes here.
Right.
It would almost be like going into traffic court and starting to talk about how you need a divorce. You might have a problem with Officer Gasson, okay? But this is not the right venue.
Okay, can I say something?
It's beyond our prerogative.
No. Let him finish. Okay, I'll let you finish. He want me to clear those trees back there. I never did that before. And guess what? I'm glad I didn't because I got a smart son. I'll be in violation of moving turtles. I got a nest of turtles back there. Go for turtle. Steve, that's a violation of the state.
Again, relevance to this, I'm here for 840 and 852, nothing about trees or turtles.
Oh, yes, it is.
Mr. Warren, how many gopher turtles are there back there?
I got at least about 4 or 5 nest holes. And the law said if I molest them or touch them, I'll be in violation. And besides, the city in violation too, by the way. Y'all in violation because the dump site full of, see this is my evidence, me and my son cut that up. Those are the pepper trees. If Steve would return my call, we won't be here. I'll be glad to walk in, but Steve is the person don't like black people.
Objection.
That ain't no objection.
Wait,
God damn it, excuse me.
You need to be respectful.
Okay, I'll be respectful.
Warren, please.
But
there's an objection, just like I would have to listen to your objection. I want to listen to the objection from this.
I'll come down. I'm sorry, y'all, but I had it.
I understand. Everybody has the right to get emotional.
I'm just objecting to the relevance.
We also have to maintain a certain decorum.
I'm just objecting to the relevance of me. We're not talking about trees. We're not talking about racism. We're here to discuss his lot being overgrown.
I'm trying to make the point, and perhaps the attorney can help.
This is the tree and the root I dug up.
Again, rule on the objection, so you can either sustain the objection that this is not relevant testimony,
Yeah,
or
I'd
you
have
can
to say,
overrule
all
it.
right.
Okay.
I'm gonna overrule the objection, but I do want to point out we need to deal with the situation at hand. That's all we're dealing with here is
pepper trees is a situation.
Let him finish talking.
Okay, we're not dealing with any complaint, and you have other venues that you can use to make those complaints, and if you have those, they may be legitimate, but this is not the right place.
Pepper trees, sir. Pepper trees is one of the complaints on there, and he said,
"Oh, it's not."
Yes, it is.
He's dropped.
I've extracted that. From
He's dropped.
Oh, he dropped the pepper tree down?
Yeah, he said that.
Yes, sir. I said that at the
They
beginning.
said that's not an issue. Reverend. He said that was not an issue.
Okay, well,
We're not dealing with pepper
okay,
plants.
okay, the gophers, remember the gophers? And see this nice plant here? Your harvest told me this tree is not a weed. This is what they call a, Brandon, hand it to them. Y'all mind handing this stuff?
Cherry laurel.
Cherry laurel. It's a beautiful Florida tree. I got a lot of oak tree. I planted when I was 18 years old back there. And that's the only tree on my property. See this house here? Mr. Huffman.
We're not going into that.
Okay, okay. Back there, I need those trees on my back property back there. This man telling me to take all the stuff, mow it down. And guess what? If I mow it down, then I don't have no vegetation, no beautiful thing that I could give to my son. That's the only trees I have in the back. Because he don't like me, he coming up with this stuff. I never did it in the past. Even Miss Joan Crawford, the guy that owned next door, she told me I never had did that before. I said, no. Not every time when I do something, oh, you do this, violate this. That's proof right there. This man have a problem with me. Now, if I have any more problem against this man, y'all know it's personal. Because that I apply. I got pictures since 2016. And the show, 2016, it showed that I mowed it, that I stuck right there
And
with the trees.
objection, relevance, we're talking about a 2017 case.
I understand that, and
No, it, okay.
and I'll sustain that objection. Let's try to deal with the situation at hand. All right. Let me just before we lose track of what's going on, Officer Gasson, what specifically are the allegations that you've brought forth there? What needs to be done to at least in the city's opinion, to bring this property into compliance?
The whole lot needs to be mowed and cleared, and if there are invasive species, they need to be removed from it.
Okay, what about trees that might be on that property?
If there are Brazilian pepper trees on the property, they do need to be
What if
removed.
they
but
aren't Brazilian
then
pepper plants?
Other trees can stay.
Okay.
As
so
long
you've
as they're
heard-
not one of the 5
you've heard
invasive
that
species.
The other trees can stay, and we're just dealing with mowing the property.
I have a question, and perhaps Officer Gasson can assist us. I know we're kind of bouncing around. I'm sorry for that.
Well, we're bouncing around because of because
know.
some of the issues that are brought up, sir.
Sure. No, and I agree with that. If there are pepper trees on the lot, what ordinance requires an empty lot that does not have structure on it for those to be removed is my question. What is the ordinance number?
I don't know the number off the top of my head, sir.
It's the state of Florida, though. isn't it?
There's a state of Florida statute.
Only
And also just for the record, and if it's the inappropriate time, you can advise, as far as gopher turtles go on the property, FWC clearly allows you to mow and maintain your property. What it is it's lot clearing. If you go in and possibly disturb those holes, but they specifically state in the statute and on their website for gopher tortoises that you can mow and maintain your property. So the presence or absence of gopher turtles make no difference to whether or not you have to mow and maintain your property. So just wanted that for the board's clarification, that unless he goes in and completely scrapes and levels the land, which we're not asking him to do, then that's the only issue where he has to have FWC come out, do the gopher survey, find out exactly where the tortoise holes are, and then they're dealt with. And I don't believe that's been done in this, so it's just a guess that there's gopher
So
turtles.
the
Which are-
issue at hand in this particular case that we can deal with here
Yes,
is that the property needs to be mowed.
correct. Back
Everything
especially on the
else,
southern
gopher
side.
turtles,
Right.
and possible allegations of racism, et cetera, are issues that are not part of this particular proceeding.
Correct. It's maintaining your lot.
And I think that, and I'd ask the attorney perhaps, let's try to get through what we have to get
Yes.
through, that's
Yes.
our prerogative to deal with.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I agree.
So, is it Reverend Warren's position that the lot is mowed?
That is his position, that it is mowed, and I do have supplemental argument when you want to take it to hear from me.
Yeah, let's take that, and let's both sides remember that let's deal with the issue at hand,
Yes.
which is what we can deal with here at code enforcement.
And
Go ahead,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman, at some point, I would like the opportunity to ask Mr. Warren just a couple of questions when
I'm
you
going to
feel it's
give you that
appropriate.
opportunity. They're still presenting their side of the case. As soon as they're done, you get the first shot to
Thank
ask
you.
the question. Go ahead, sir.
In the Code of Ordinances in Tarpon here, 853, 8-53, which are the exceptions, I believe that Mr. Warren, or Reverend Warren, has an argument that can be made, and obviously he did not draft this code. It's drafted by the city, so any ambiguity must be construed in the favor of Mr. Reverend Warren in this case, because he didn't draft it. Section A1 states the following, and this is one of the reasons why I brought up these lots. You have Reverend Warren's lot. To the right is the Pinellas County Community Housing Program land that has no structures on it. It's an empty lot. To the left of Reverend Warren's lot is Herman Winthrop. He owns that, undeveloped. To the left of that lot, undeveloped, is Duke Energy, who gets special priority from the city. Subsection 1, A1 of 853 states, any lands which are over 10,000 square feet in area and in an undeveloped state, provided, however, all lands within 30 feet of roadway must be maintained in accordance with Section 852A, and provided further that any lands adjacent to any improved property on the side or rear must be maintained to a depth of 15 feet on the side or rear, whichever is adjacent to improved property in accordance with Section 852A. I believe he has a valid argument that when his property is 7,000 square feet, undeniable. However, when you take the adjoining properties, they're well more than 10,000 square feet, and they're all undeveloped. That's what's key here. And based on that, he can have the 30-15 rule apply to his case. And that's what I'm asking the board to find today, based on it's in excess of 10,000 square feet area. And that particular provision doesn't say any land which is over 10,000 square feet in area and in an undeveloped state. It says any lands which are over 10,000 square feet. So I believe he has a valid argument. You can add up the 7, the 7, the 7, and then whatever Duke Energy is, which is 111 by 140. You're in well beyond the 10,000 square mark required, and therefore he should not be found in violation on his undeveloped land. And this makes sense, and I'll tell you why. Let's assume you have properties that are undeveloped and the 30-15 rule applies. Let's assume the middle property cuts everything down. Everything's gone. The properties next to him would technically be a nuisance. However, they wouldn't be in violation if each property were 10,000 square feet in area. So how do you have a nuisance when you can't? Because they're in compliance. So my argument is you can add those property sizes as long as they are all adjacent. And that's what I'm asking the board to consider here today.
Anything else you'd like to add?
No, thank you, sir.
All right. You had a question you wanted
I have a
to
few,
ask Officer Gass?
The first one's to be to council. So council, the two properties, the one you pointed out earlier that you said's in violation, Herman Winthrop's, and then the one that's Pinellas County Community Land Trust to the west?
Yes, I was asking you if you found them in violation.
So let me ask you this question. You're taking the 10,000 square feet by combining those two properties next door, correct? And making the sum 10,000 square feet? Is that what I heard?
There would be 1, 2, 3, 4 total properties that are undeveloped.
So I should then cite Mr. Warren, and he should maintain Mr. Winthrop's property if you're using that addition method.
No.
He's responsible to
No.
maintain it?
No, I'm saying they're not. You're not. If it's undeveloped and you have left it in the state that it is, then you're okay. That's what I'm arguing here.
Explain to the board, if they don't already know it, the definition of undeveloped, according to our city code, is property that's never been mowed in its entirety. They showed a picture of Mr. Winthrop's property, which was mowed. They showed a picture of the property to the west, which was mowed. So theoretically, they're no longer undeveloped property according to the definition. That's one issue. Second issue that I'd like to ask of Mr. Warren, if possible. Mr. Warren, you state you did mow that property, correct?
I mowed it like always in the last past 30 years.
Okay.
My trees back there, I did not mow them back. Y'all got to know that it's not weeds, y'all. Those are my trees I plant back there. And even the worst code enforcement man before never made me. He said, okay, even Mr. Other lady say, okay, leave the tree that cut the grass. Those trees, he want me to mow my trees down. Now, this is my argument again.
That's all I do.
If I move those trees, Mr. Winthrow's stuff, you know, it's a slope down the hill. Y'all know why it stop up? Because all the people saying leave off their property and stop up the city sewer. And that's what's going on. And the lady told me before, Rebel One leave some vegetation. She said, your trees okay. It's okay until this man one day knock on my door. He knocked on my door and say, it's code enforcement. Now, he let me know that. You want to take that, how you want to take it? That personal. I said, what you mean by that, Steve? I'm code enforcement personnel. He sat outside my house for 1 hour to stew me. I was stewing like beans, burnt beans. But I hold my integrity. I'm going to tell you right now, this man got something personal against me. No, I'm going to ask for Steve, I'd like to ask you something.
Excuse me.
Why when I call you, you don't answer my call back?
Come on. I'm going to ask the attorney, please, would you advise your client? I've tried to explain what we're really here to do, okay? This isn't the right venue for any complaint of the nature that Reverend Warren is bringing. There are other venues that he can use. It's not going to do you any good, Reverend. No matter what you say, we're not going to consider that. That's not a point that we can consider. Okay, you're just going to get yourself aggravated. Okay, and I'm not making. I have no idea whether what you're telling me, is true or not, and I'm not going to rule on that. We're only dealing with, did you mow the property or not?
Yes,
you
I
made
did.
your position. Okay, and
I mowed. But I
if
left
you have
my trees.
anything else that you want to add about that, because we got to move on. You might have other issues that are well beyond what we're going to be dealing with here today.
I think he's made it clear his position that he's mowed the yard, and whatever trees are on the back side, he's left them alone, along with the issue with the gopher turtles. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, then. Does anybody have any questions for Reverend Warren or for his attorney?
I do. I know. I'll make them brief.
Please.
What behind your property to the south, is that a residence or is it a vacant lot? To the south of your property, so would be
Behind.
Harrison.
Come on, right
I'm sorry,
behind my
Morgan.
property?
Behind your property to the south, is there a house there?
And behind it, yes.
Okay, so that would be, you would have to then mow in 15 feet from that developed property. Is that correct? Might want to consult with your attorney because that's what he just explained.
If you don't know, you don't know.
I don't know.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to ask you really quick, you stated numerous times you've never been in violation before?
I never been in violation before because that not with no property.
Okay, so let me have you've owned that property for how long?
What do you mean by never been in violation? Not by that, not by mowing them trees back there. They cited me, but I never had came before y'all anymore. I never came before the code enforcement board.
Have you ever been cited before for that property?
I've
It's
been
given a
cited,
notice or something?
But I always call them, they call me back. But you never called me back, Steve.
Okay.
You never.
Okay.
So in 1998, in 2000, 2001,
I'm going to object as
2012.
to relevance, 98, 2000.
Well, he brought up that he's never been in violation.
He said
So
he has
I'm-
been, but he's never come before the board.
Now he states that. Okay, and I understand
you
that.
don't know one right before.
Okay.
Reverend Warren indicated that he had never been before the board.
Okay.
So,
I have no further questions.
all right.
I'm
Does
sorry,
anybody?
y'all.
Pardon me?
It's out of my nature.
He said he was sorry.
I'm sorry.
That's
Part
all
of my
right. You don't have to apologize.
Okay.
It's an emotional issue, and apparently there's more going on, and I can understand that, but we have to deal with what we have to deal with.
I'd like to make a motion.
That's fine. Let's hear it.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in the law that at the time of the alleged violation, sections 840 and 8-52, of the Code of Ordinances in the city of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect. The respondent was in violation.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second, and as the chairman, I thank you for bringing the motion, because I think that we've heard both sides as much as we're gonna hear. Any discussion among the board? All right. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs? Yes. Mr. Bergerman?
Yes.
Ms. Casey?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Amdamasa?
Yes. Okay, that brings us to the penalty phase, and as I've done with each case up to this point, Officer Gasson, any recommendation on the part of the city?
I won't vary from my previous 30 days, $50 a day fine.
Okay.
I'll make,
Go ahead, please.
I move that the respondent shall have 30 days until October 20th to bring the property into compliance with code sections 8-40 and 8-52, or suffer a fine of $50 per day for each day thereafter the respondents remain in violation of said code sections.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion among the board? Take a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs? I'm sorry, Ms. Dabbs?
Said yes.
Yes,
Thank
she
you.
said yes.
Thank you. Mr. Bergerman?
Yes.
Ms. Casey?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Amasa?
Yes. Okay. And the only thing I would say is if you some of the complaints that you've aired here might be better served in a different venue, and I would suggest that you speak to your attorney about how you might best move on those.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good day.
Okay, thank you. Okay. The next case is 17-800000506. It's vacant lot 1723 Grand Central. Anybody here for that piece of property? Apparently no one's here for that piece of property. Officer Gasson, if you're ready, you may proceed.
Thank you. This property is in compliance as of this date, so I'm here before the board to have it established. Case 17-800000506. It's a vacant lot, 1723 Grand Central Boulevard, or Grand Central on the west side of town, owned by an out-of-state property owner, Zareen Chen. I believe she lives in Maryland. Exhibit number 1 going around are all the photographs that include the initial inspection and sign posting. Exhibit number 2 are all of my notices, including the notice of violation and notice of hearing. Exhibit number 3 are my administrative documents, including emails from the property owner. And exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. Case started on August 19th of this year. My initial inspection based on a neighbor complaint. The lot's overgrown, needs to be maintained. On August 21st, the notice of hearing and notice of violation was mailed, first class and certified mail. On September 1st, phone call from the owner we received that it was ready to be inspected. At that point in time, we also explained to her that we were taking it before the board to be established. On September 8th, I posted the property. On September 18th, the owner called and stated she had hired a landscaper. On September 19th, the owner submitted an email, which is part of exhibit number 3. And then on September 20th, I conducted a final inspection. And as you can see, my posting on September 8th shows the property was in compliance on that date. When I did drive by and check it on the 20th, it was still in compliance. So the property is in compliance at this point. As you stated, we've had some email conversations back and forth. The long and short of it is she's been having a difficult time trying to maintain the landscaper. One of the bigger issues is the numerous priors we've had with that property and owner on maintaining that property. So that's why it's before the board to be established for violation of City Code 8-40 and 8-52, the duty to maintain private property and the nuisance prohibitions dealing with lot clearing. And the lot is over 10,000 square feet, but it has been completely cleared. So it needs to continually be completely cleared. And that's all I have at this time, Mr.
All right, and
Chairman.
all of the exhibits will be collected and made a part of the record. Let me ask a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Is this property owner, been the property owner throughout all these alleged, or all of these earlier violations?
Was she what?
Was she the property owner, or has the property changed hands?
I know since 2015. There was 3 since then. And that's when I took over. And I honestly
As
didn't
the
look
owner?
previous to that. Yes, she was the
Okay.
owner back then.
All right. Okay, in view of my own questions, does anybody else have any questions for Officer Gass? Apparently, there are no further questions.
Motion.
We'll wait till, at least the photographic exhibits have been passed out. Okay, we're ready to, anybody have a motion? Anybody care to make a motion in this case?
Yes, I will.
Go ahead, please.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, facts presented in law that at the time of the alleged violations, sections 8-40 and 8-52 of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect. The respondent was in violation thereof.
Let's take a pause on the record. But I gotta get this in. All right, go ahead. We'll make it.
Just say,
Okay, so you have a motion on the floor. You don't have a second yet.
Okay, can we get a second on this particular motion?
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Question?
Any need for discussion?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Was this is this property in compliance? I mean, I think.
Yes.
It is.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it's in compliance now.
The motion
So the motion was not, was the motion?
Can we
made
hear the
correctly?
motion again?
It was for the, for finding the respondent in violation.
No.
So
But
we
it-
just have to move.
You just need to add that
Just
extra
that.
sentence that the property is now in
He was in
compliance.
violation.
Property is
was-
now in compliance.
All right, then.
Now we said.
Okay, same thing, Mr. Weeks. You're a good learner because
Right on top of things.
you're right on top of things. It's been a long day, all right? And for a while there, I thought it was going to be a lot longer. So, with the motion on the floor and seconding, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergman?
Yes.
Ms. Casey?
Yes.
Ms. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. DeMontis?
Yes.
Thank you.
That brings us to our next case. It's 17-800000521. It's a vacant lot, 1722 Grand Central Drive. I worked on the railroad for 47 years. Grand Central. I worked at Grand Central Station at one time. Okay, anybody here for Grand Central Drive? Apparently not. Okay. Officer Gasson, and I know before we even get started that when you get your exhibits passed to us, we're going to make them a part of the record.
Thank you.
And I'd ask the clerk to make sure that you do that.
I appreciate it.
Go ahead, Officer Gasson.
Case 17-800000521. This is a vacant lot. City address is 1722 Grand Central Drive, parcel number 102715341640000320. Property owner is an out-of-state owner, I believe in Maryland again or Canada, one of the two, I can't remember. Denise St. Marie. I want the board to consider violation of City Code 8-40 and 8-52, duty to maintain private property, and the nuisance prohibitions of dealing with lot clearing, mowing, and et cetera. Exhibit number 1 going before the board are all the photographs, including the inspection, re-inspections, and the sign posting. Exhibit number 2 are all the notices, including the notice of violation and notice of hearing. Exhibit number 3, the administrative docs to include the case summary, property appraiser, and tax collector records, and any emails. Exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. August 19th, my initial inspection, the one case you just heard is directly across the street from this case at 1722. I was inspecting the one on the south side, and now I was dealing with this property on the north side. The lot's vacant. It's grossly overgrown. I had priors. I personally had 2 priors with this property for the same issue, so I brought it before to be established before the board. Now, it's not in compliance as of today, so it's not being established. We sent a notice of hearing and a notice of violation on August 21st via certified mail and first-class mail to Denise St. Marie. The sign was posted on September 8th. On September 19th, we received certified green cards for both the NOH and the NOV in the office. And on September 20th, I conducted a reinspection, and there was no change. We did have, I think we received an email, which is included in the record, which basically states she's having issues trying to find a landscaper. All the notices were mailed to the owner of record as determined by the Pinellas County Tax Collector and Property Appraisers Database. So at this point, I'd like the Code Board to consider a violation of 8-40 and 8-52.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Officer Gasson? Apparently no questions for Officer Gasson. Anybody care to make a motion in this case?
I will.
Go ahead, Mr.
I move based on testimony, evidence, and facts presented in the law that at the time of the alleged violations, Code 8-40, 8-52 of the code ordinances of the city of Tarpon Springs was in force and effect. The respondent was in violation thereof.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and we've got a second. Any discussion? Apparently no need for discussion. We'll take a voice vote, please.
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergerman?
Yes.
Ms. Vacasie?
Yeah.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. DeMoss?
Yes. Okay, that brings us to case 18 on the docket.
Uh,
No? Oh, I'm sorry. What do we have to do?
Second
Oh,
We have to go to the penalty phase. All right. I'm sorry. I'm getting worn out here. Okay. Anybody,
Yeah.
let me ask this, Officer Gasson, any recommendation on the part of the city?
30 days and $50 a day.
30 days and $50.
Number.
All right.
Bill 3050.
30-50.
I move that the respondent shall have until October 20th to bring the property into compliance with the code sections 8-40 and 8-52, or suffer a fine of $50 per day for each day thereof. The respondent remains in violation of said code section.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Apparently no need for discussion. Now we'll take that voice vote.
Okay, Mr. Weeks?
yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergerman?
Yes.
Ms. Vacasie?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. DeMoss?
Yes. Okay, that brings us to case number 18, a repeat violator. It's 905 Gainesway. It's case number 17-800000418. Anyone here for 905 Gainesway? Apparently not. Officer Gasson, you may
Thank you.
proceed.
As you stated, sir, this is a repeat violator case, and the property right now is not in compliance. The original case was 14-511. It was violation codes 8-40 and 852, and the code board heard the case September 11th of 2014. Today's case is 17-800000418. Property address is 905 Gainesway. It's a structure. It's a house. It is owned by an Ann Hoyle. We've since found out Ann's been deceased. I don't know how many years, but it hasn't been officially turned over to an estate or anything. So unfortunately, it's still in her name. I bring before the board another 840-852 case. Exhibit number 1 going before the board are all the photographs, including the initial inspection and the sign posting. Exhibit number 2 are all of my notices, including the notice of hearing and the notice of hearing for a repeat violator. And exhibit number 3 of my administrative documents. Exhibit number 4 is the affidavit of posting and a copy of the sign. And exhibit number 5 is the affidavit of prosecution costing the amount of $142.50. Initially, my case started on July 14th of this year, stemmed from a neighbor complaint about the rear yard being overgrown. Apparently, I've since found out that neighbors were taking care of the front yard, and when I originally had put it in compliance last year, I just was doing a drive-by inspection, and I noticed that the property was in decent shape, and that's when we found out that the neighbors were actually taking care of it. Well, unfortunately, they've stopped. So at that time, they have a chain link fence, so I can clearly see into the backyard, and the grass was probably 3 or 4 feet high. On September 14th, we mailed a notice of violation via first class and certified mail to the property owner, which is listed as 905 Gaines Way. There's no other, we did an expansive amount of research. Barb was very busy trying to find relatives, and I don't believe she ever did successfully find any other people related to this property. So unfortunately, the only notices went to the known deceased person at her house that she no longer lives in. So conducted a reinspection on August 7th, and as noted, it's a repeat violation case that began on July 14th of this year. The notice of repeat violator was mailed on August 2nd, first-class certified mail. August 14th, August 23rd, magically, we received the notice of hearing repeat violator certification notices unopened and unsigned. And then on August 29th, the tax collector put a notice in that said they're going to be selling the property based on unpaid taxes. So it's up in the air. September 8th, I posted the property, and we completed the affidavit of costs for $142.50. And as of September 20th, the property is still not in compliance. And as I stated, all the notices were sent to the listed property owner, and after some diligent research, we were unable to come up with any family members. It's not technically listed as an estate, so there's not a court proceeding which would give us any information about family members, although we just happen to know she is deceased based on what the neighbor stated. So basically, bring it before the board as a repeat violator for 8-40 and 8-52. When was this happening? One thing to consider is we did state that it is being sold for back taxes. I don't know the date of that auction sale. That may play into the board's consideration. I mean, it is in violation as of September 14th. So we may have a resolution here within a period of time once the ownership changes. And at that point, the fines will stop.
Well, so right now, we're going to be finding a dead person that we know is dead.
Unfortunately, yes, sir.
Oh, but there's gonna be an estate.
Yeah.
But if we put in a code enforcement board, how is that gonna affect the sale for tax purposes?
Well, it's going to be another lien.
Okay.
It'll be another lien on the property. So whoever purchases it will also have to satisfy our liens.
Okay.
I can remember that meeting a couple of months ago.
Does anybody else have any questions for Officer Gasson?
I find this hard to do, to find someone who's deceased.
Oh, I'll do it.
And then,
That's not the right form, though. We gotta have a repeat violator
Right.
one on page 3.
Yeah.
is that all we're gonna do is repeat
Motion,
violation?
we need a motion for repeat violation with a fine not in compliance. Is that correct, Officer Gasson?
Yeah.
That's correct.
All
Thank
right.
you. I
If
was trying to
anybody
find what
wants
the
to
previous
make a
fine.
motion, I'll listen to it. We have a motion?
Do you have a recommendation based on what the fine should be?
They were, I think she was previously fined $25
So
a
there is a
day,
fine.
and
I
I
had a
mean,
question about it.
you could certainly fine them $0. You can find them in violation and fine them $0. It's up to you.
Because we want the property sold, don't we?
I'm sure
I
it will
mean, the
be.
city
It's
would
going to be
like-
it's going to be a tax
Well,
auction sale.
I
so.
have to say, I'm not sure that, do we want a fine built up so that somebody who's gonna buy this house ends up trying to resolve a lien on a piece of property that they bought?
It does have prior fines from 2014, so there's already
a lien on it.
I just don't know the amount.
We
You know,
might
and there
just-
is already a lien. So
Well, I understand, but I'm not sure that we wanna just add to
I don't want
add to a lien that's already there, so that somebody ends up having to pay
So
even
where do we
more.
now, I don't necessarily know if this is going to sway the board in any way, but this is one of my cases I intend to abate because of the nature of the circumstances. But I do have to have the board deal with the violation, and then once that has occurred, I can start abating the property, which we have a landscaping company, and this is one of my properties I intend to abate, keep it mowed, keep it at least, and it would put it into compliance once the city does that.
Because it
So-
might not sell for a year, and
Yeah, but it'll keep, because it is in a
violation.
neighborhood.
So can we technically find them in violation with a 0 fine, but award them the prosecution cost?
I imagine. Why don't we, I would suggest a fine of $1 a day. I mean, or nothing, whatever. But I certainly can't see the good of $25, $25 a day from somebody that we know is dead.
I agree.
And just building up a lien that somebody's gonna
Gonna be harder
wanna
and
buy
harder
the
to sell.
property, and they're gonna look at the lien, and maybe it would dissuade them.
Right.
Where we could get a brand-new owner here in Tarpon Springs that's gonna take care of the property. So to me, it doesn't make much sense to add a big fine, but I'm only the chairman, so
On the other
whoever wants to make a motion, we'll listen to the motion.
Okay, listen to.
What if a relative shows up and they see that, all right, they've got this going on, and they go, what, $1 a day? Who cares?
Well, then make it, you do what you feel is right.
Oh, I'd like
to make a
Ms. Gates.
motion.
Make a motion. Somebody make a motion.
Can I make a motion, please?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. I move that based on the testimony and the evidence, facts presented in the law, that the respondent, who is Ann Howell,
Hoyle.
Gordon Hoyle.
was in violation of sections 8-40 and 8-52, the Sulphur Springs, from the initial date of inspection, which was
7/14.
7/14, until the completion date, which is open. Is that right? Yeah. And a fine of $25 a day per day for 30 days, or a fine of $500.
What?
Or total fine due of $500.
What motion is he reading?
I'm sorry, I'm reading in compliance. I apologize.
You're reading
Jeez
the
Louise.
repeat violation.
You probably can just, okay, never mind.
Yeah, we don't have that.
Respondent, violation section that until such time the property is brought into a climate in compliance, and a fine of $25 a day shall be imposed upon compliance is met. In addition, I move that the city be awarded $142.50 for the cost incurred in prosecuting the case.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
He did the $25 a day?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the motion.
Okay, I don't agree with that.
Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Weeks,
Yes.
Miss Wade?
No.
No? Ms. Dabbs?
No.
Mr. Bergerman?
Yes.
Miss Casey?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
You're having a hard time with my name all of a sudden.
Archie. I'm tired. I apologize, Miss Archer. I had know your name as good as I know my own.
No.
No, very, okay. And Mr. Demasis?
No.
Yeah, that failed.
So did it pass or not?
No.
Okay, anyone else care to make a
No.
motion?
I'll try one.
Go ahead.
Let's see. I move based on testimony, evidence, and fact presented in law that the respondent failed to timely comply with this board's prior order within the time prescribed, and to award the city, what did you say?
What motion is she writing?
$250 for the costs incurred prosecuting? Will that cover mowing it?
No. No, there is already an affidavit of prosecution cost of $142.50. What I might suggest before you complete your motion is if you look, there's a motion for repeat violation with fine, not in compliance, and that's a standard wording.
Okay, I want the bottom one instead. I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay, if you'd like to make another motion, go ahead,
We'll
please.
try again. I move based on the testimony, evidence, fact presented in law that the estate of Ann Hoyle was in violation of section 8-40 and 8-52 of the Tarpon Springs City Code from 7/14 until such time as the property is brought into compliance, and a fine of $1 per day shall be imposed until compliance is met. In addition, I move that the city be awarded $142.50 for the cost incurred in prosecuting the case.
Any second?
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, let's have a roll call vote.
Mr. Weeks?
No.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Mr. Bergerman?
Yes.
Ms. Vacacy?
No.
Mrs. Archer?
No.
Okay. Mr. DeMasis?
Yes.
Okay. 1, 2, 3,
Where's that leave us?
4 to 3. Yes, passes.
Passes.
4 to 3. 4 yeses, 3 no.
So it passes. All right, then.
1, 2, 3.
Okay.
God, that was tough.
Casey, I'm gonna ask for a little help here. You wanna do the affidavits of non-compliance?
No.
How many we have?
Oh, yeah, we do have one person present for one affidavit of noncompliance, and that happens to be the first one.
Okay. 438 Riverside?
Correct.
All right.
Pardon me? He's testifying?
Yeah,
Okay.
he wasn't sworn in.
Okey dokey.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
Well, wait a minute, we have,
Just one.
Ready? We're gonna swear him in real quick. He was present at the swearing in. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
I wish Tom was here, 'cause I don't know what we're doing.
Officer Gasson?
Yes, sir.
any Position that the, city has on this affidavit of non-compliance?
It's still in noncompliance, and we're requesting $250 for the affidavit of prosecution costs.
Okay, and you are, Mr. Merritt?
No, sir. I'm the resident, Dave Lewis.
Okay, and you're representing Mr. Merritt, or,
You could say that,
well, you,
And-
no,
I
you
don't
need
think
to
we
say
should
that.
do
I mean,
this.
why are you
Yeah, I
here
don't
then?
know if anybody.
because I live there.
Okay, but you're not the person that's being charged.
I'm the one that caused the charge.
Okay, let's hear what you have to say then.
I wrote it on my notes. Is it all right if I read it to you guys?
Certainly, go ahead.
As you can see, the progress that we've had has got held up with a hurricane. When we made our agreement on the 90 days last time, I figured I could handle that, and I feel I bit off more than I could chew. Because when I got in there, it was a mess, and it really has been a job. And the stress that I've had worrying about this $150 a day is killing me. So let me read this to you guys so I don't sound like a stuttering idiot up here. With the help of friends, there was great progress. I'm trying to appeal to your compassionate side. With the progress will continue, however. Please don't set me up for failure, and I can't afford $150 per day. Please set me up with a 90-day progress plan. And again, my apologies for taking so long to complete my violations. I just want to be a resident that you can be proud of. Thanks, Dave Lewis.
Okay. I'm not sure I fully understand. I'm gonna ask you, Officer Gaston, it's John and Stella Merritt that are subject to this.
Correct, they're the property owners.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so this gentleman is not subject to any fine, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And the board's already established their decision, so unfortunately, it's rudimentary.
Sorry,
but
go ahead,
I said
repeat
the
that.
board's already established a decision, so anything he has to say can't sway what the board's decision was. His only option would be to appeal the case to the appellate court.
Yeah, I'm really not sure what you're doing here, sir. Tell you
Well-
the truth, the fine, you don't pay the fine. The fine goes to the owners.
I am the owner, basically. Dr. Merritt is an attorney that goes to court for the Bucks players that are retired.
Okay?
And needless to say, he's pretty well off. He helped me buy the house for me. And I think I've been there going on 11 years. And I got a stack of violations from the board or code enforcement. And I'm just trying to get on track to where I'm not getting any violations or getting fined $150 a day because I couldn't afford that. And I can't put that on Dr. Merritt when he was gracious enough to buy the house for me and help me out with it. But needless to say, almost everything on the property is almost cleaned up. The reason that the tarp has stayed up is the leaks from the roof with the hurricane and everything. And I figure in another 30 days I can have the house looking tip-top with no violations.
Well, I just don't know how we can do anything. I mean, it's not in compliance. And
We're just covered up by the legal
Bas-
mumbo jumbo
Basically, at
of
this
it.
point, once he comes into compliance, he can petition the board
To lower the
for a reduction of fines. But up until that point, there's nothing that can occur. This is just an affidavit, me stating that his property is not in compliance as of the date the board ordered it.
Yeah, I wasn't asked to come today. I don't want to have fines stacked up that I can't afford. And I don't want to be a resident, you guys drive by and going, oh geez, there's this guy again.
I would just suggest
You
just
know,
get it done.
I just
as
want
quick
everybody
as you
happy.
can.
Okay, well, we've heard your position. All those in favor of accepting the affidavit of non-compliance?
We've got
That's not quite
a
that
piece
simple.
of paper to do it.
There's a prosecution cost thing on here too.
Okay, we got a prosecution cost of $250. Anything else that I'm missing?
All right, you wanted me to make the motion?
Yes.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in law that the respondent failed to timely comply with the board's prior order within the time prescribed, and to award the city $250 for the costs incurred of prosecuting this case.
Any second?
Second.
Any discussion? Can we get a voice vote?
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Mrs. Wade?
Yes.
Mrs. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergerman?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Demasi?
Yes. Okay.
Not trying to blow you off, but we couldn't do anything else. And I would just suggest get it done as quick as you can.
So am I still being charged $150 a day?
Yeah, when did that start?
Like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Now,
Well,
if you-
and
August
you know,
18th,
there's
2017.
And you
it
do,
started.
you do have
Had
the option.
90 days to get it resolved the last time you were
Right.
here.
Correct.
Right, and like I said, there was so much vegetation and roots, but, trying to get the fence up has really been a pain. The ground caves in as soon as you start
Asked the
digging in
city,
there.
for-
It really did. It turned out a lot more than I thought it was going to be, and I do apologize for thinking I could have it done in that 90 days. But
You can always ask for a reduction, but
After it's in compliance.
once it's in compliance, you can submit a letter asking for a reduction. But you need to read the rules, because you can't just ask for a reduction and expect us to just hand it over. You've got to submit a lot of financials.
well, the last time we were here, you guys even said that was a little excessive at $150 a day.
Well,
And I mean,
we're not going to argue. We've made a decision.
I understand that, but this is just for my heart and my soul, because like I said, the stress of this is really affecting my daily life.
Get that way
Well,
overnight.
We just found out from Michelle said he's not even supposed to testify. So we're not even to take testimony on an affidavit of compliance or non-compliance.
Well,
So-
I wanted to hear what he had to say, but we've made a ruling here. You had 90 days. You weren't in compliance.
Even with a hurricane in there, there's just no compassion
I'm not
for
going to
that?
argue with you anymore.
No, sir,
I
I'm
think
not
we're done.
expecting you to.
We're done.
Yes,
Okay?
sir.
We're done. Okay? You can leave now, please.
Sorry.
Okay? Or you can take a seat, but we're done with this case. Okay?
You have to come into compliance first, and we can explain that to you after this hearing's done. Okay?
Well, I don't mean to be the bad guy here, but it is what it is.
No.
Let's go on. She's got choir practice. I got a hungry dog and a hungry
Okay, well, let
body.
me ask you something, Miss Casey. You saw the number of cases that we had today, right? We're trying to get through this as well as we can.
So I'm not sure why you want to continue a conversation with this guy. I just think we ought to just get the meeting done with and go home.
Okay, let's go on to the next case.
Okay.
Okay, you got case number 20, affidavit of non-compliance, 17.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in law that the respondent failed to timely comply with the board's prior order within the time prescribed, and to award the city $290 for the costs incurred in the prosecution of this case.
Second.
Any second? Okay, can we get a vote on this?
Can we just do a voice?
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergerman?
Yes.
Ms. Casey,
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Demasis?
Yes. Okay, that brings us to the next one. It's 601 East Martin Luther King Drive.
I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented on law that the respondent failed to timely comply with the board's prior order within the time prescribed and award the city $192 for the costs incurred in the prosecution of this case.
A second. Okay, we've got a second. Can we get a voice vote?
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr.
You
Bergerman?
okay, ma'am?
Yes.
Mr.
All right.
Casey?
Yes.
You need some water or something?
Is she okay?
Okay.
All
right, that brings us to-
Wait a minute. Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Thank you, I'm sorry. And, Mr. Demasis?
Yes.
No.
Gonna be okay? Because this is not as important as you being okay. You all right?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in law that the respondent failed to timely comply with the board's prior order within the time prescribed and to award the city $192 for the costs incurred in the prosecution of this case.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, can we get a voice vote?
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergerman?
Yes.
Ms. Casey?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Demasis?
Okay, that brings us to 17-800000333. Care to make a motion?
I will, but I think that we are supposed to enter into the record that there's nobody in the audience for any of these.
For non-compliance, yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
All right, I move based on the testimony, evidence, and facts presented in law that the respondent failed to timely comply with this board's prior order within the time prescribed and to award the city $163 for the costs incurred in the prosecution of this case.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Can we get a voice vote?
Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yes.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergerman?
Yes.
Ms. Casey?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
Mr. Demasis?
Yes. All right, that brings us to the affidavits of compliance. If somebody would read off the different addresses, I think we can take these collectively.
I
together.
will. I move to accept the affidavits of compliance on, Bobby, would you rather have the addresses or the case number?
The case number and they individually.
Oh.
Because they each have a, prosecution.
No, there aren't,
To the
there are
affidavits
no
of compliance.
costs,
Of compliance.
prosecution costs on any of these.
We don't have any prosecution costs on these. These are all compliant
Okay.
ones.
I'm
So I
sorry.
move to
Burn through all of them.
accept the affidavits of compliance on case number 16-2000004, 16-800000056, 17-800000089, 17-800000231, 17-800000298, 17-800000372, 17-800000400, and 17-800000401.
Any second? Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Can we get a voice vote?
Yes. Mr. Weeks?
Yes.
Ms. Wade? Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergerman?
Yes.
Ms. Casey?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer?
Yes.
And Mr. Demasis?
Yes. The last bit of business is we have a request, I believe this is from the city, to quash board order number 17-800003333.
Yes, and we're just trying to check to see where the original is, to make sure the original is with the
What?
clerk. Do you have the original of this, Bobby? The quash?
Can you just give us a brief reason as to why the city wants to
I'll
quash?
read this to you. It was from Michelle. She stated, the case was heard before the Code Board on July 20th, 2017, and subsequently 2 board orders were issued. Number 1, establishing the violation of City Code 8-22, and 2, a finding of fact board order here whereby a compliance date and fine amount were ordered for City Code Section 840 and 852. And she states, as she was reviewing the minutes for that meeting, she questioned why 2 orders were issued, which prompted me to listen to the audio recording. After listening to the audio recording, Officer Gasson had removed City Code 8-22 since it was in compliance. He did speak to establishing the violation. However, no formal action was taken by the Code Board. Therefore, I'm requesting the Code Board take action to quash the board order establishing the violation of City Code 8-22.
Okay, can we get a voice vote to, all in favor to request the quash of this particular case?
Do we need a motion first?
Do we need a motion? Somebody give a motion, please.
I make a motion that we quash as requested.
Thank you very much. Okay, we get a second for that?
Oh, I second.
Okay, very good. Let's have a voice vote, and this will be the last vote we're gonna have to take today.
Mr. Weed?
Yes.
Ms. Wade?
Yeah.
Ms. Dabbs?
Yes.
Mr. Bergerman?
Yes.
Ms. Vacacy?
Yes.
Mrs. Archer? Yes. And Mr. Amdamasis?
Yes. Okay. Any public comments? There's no one here. There's no approval of minutes that we need. Any board or staff comments? I'll make a comment. Next month, I age out. Next month is my last meeting. Okay, I was supposed to be on vacation today. I came in. I don't need it. I'm not a hero, but next month will be my last meeting, and then you can elect a new chairman, and you can hopefully get through these cases a lot quicker. I know people are not happy that it takes a long time, but I'd like to point out the fact that you have 33 items on this agenda, and during my 4 years, there were times when there were only 3 or 4 items. That's not, so if it takes a long time, maybe we should think about starting earlier in the day. I appreciate everybody. I'll be back here next month, and then we're going to have a vote next month to determine who's going to be the chairman. So think about whether you want to do that, okay? And keep that in mind. So
Thank you for your service.
okay, well, I'm not done yet. Next month. And that's it?
No,
No?
I'll say something.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I will
Go
not
ahead.
be here next month, and I'm not kidding. I won't be here next month.
Okay.
Well, but he will
You
still be
can't-
here to chair.
And you can't vote.
Oh, yeah, we can.
No.
All right.
Not after
Meeting
today.
adjourned.
Thank you all.
You got a temperament for it.
You look serious.
You okay, Katie?
Your daddy's birthday.
Yes.
Surprise, you're still here. You okay?
I'd like to be out of here at 2:30 too, but what the hell are you gonna do?
The one triplet was the one I called on. I felt bad.
Yeah.
I'll send you an email about it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Y'all have a nice evening
I've been
now.
better.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
They needed
Yeah.
Well, everybody's bitching about how long it takes. Well, if you got 33 items, then it's gonna take a long time. And we've changed the procedures where we double vote on any violation. Okay, you had a case here that had some racial overtones that we had to be a little careful with. No, but I'm just saying, so, you know, if you want, 13 minutes worth of justice, we can do that, but you know what? Next month, my last meeting, I'm done. Somebody else can run the meetings in 10 minutes.
Okay? Why you mad? Why you're annoyed? I don't know. I didn't know he left till he left. I had no idea that he had actually gone. Huh? Yeah, I don't know her name. I got her name wrong. I called her something totally different. I don't know what I called her, but it was wrong. So you got,
Yeah.
you gotta get the mics down too? Okay, we're moving. Hold on. Damn, I'm right here. Code enforcement's gonna be long and drug out. You ever sit there when the sun comes in, you can't see nothing anymore. You're completely blinded. These are taped on.